Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 6th City of Oldsmar Council meeting at 7 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. Our pledge allegiance to the flag and our invocation will be led by our city attorney, Tom Trask. Please rise.
Our Heavenly Father, we meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize the responsibilities to the past and the future, as well as the rights and needs of both the individual and our community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings in our deliberations and our efforts here today. This we pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. We have a pretty lengthy agenda tonight, and I just want to assure that everyone will get an opportunity to speak if you'd like to speak. And with that, I'm going to open up the public open forum. Each person will get approximately 5 minutes to speak. You can speak on anything you would like on the agenda, and you get 5 minutes. And please, when you come to the podium, please state your name and your address for the record. Let's start with this side. Anybody would like to speak to the council? You come on up first.
Hi, my name is James Hummel, 132 Arlington Street. I'd like to comment that the city did a wonderful job on the Oldsmar Armadillo run. It was very well organized, it was very well run, and nobody encountered anything. And the second thing I'd like to bring up, people that cut grass over on Lafayette Street blow all their grass out onto the street, okay? Now, a friend of mine is a state trooper who was off duty, and a lady on her bike said, you know, we all pay taxes, and the gentleman started yelling at her. And my friend got out of his car and told him he would be arrested if he's not nice. I just wanted to point out that people blow their grass onto the street, and it doesn't look good for the city. Thank you.
James.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You want to come up?
Good evening, Council. My name is Ken LaCroix. I live at 504 Cypress View Drive in Oldsmar, resident for 22 years. I'm here tonight to say thank you to all of you for the BMX track. You guys did a great job. You're attracting a lot of people. And a lot of big things are going to come out of here very, very soon. But I just want to say thank you. I've heard a lot of negativity in other meetings and stuff, but I want to make sure that I got here and gave you guys some praise because it's needed. And you get a lot of big names here now, and they're all planning on moving this way. So you did a great thing for us.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Have a nice night, guys.
Anyone else on this side of the room would like to speak to the council?
I'd actually go trolling for reading glasses. When the eyes go, let me tell you. My name is Pam Settle. I live at 439 Lakeview Drive. Ooh, these aren't my strengths. Okay, I'm going to do my best. All right, so yesterday I spent my Labor Day reading the agenda packet, and the attachments was quite a stack of papers. Very impressive workload in front of a 3-day weekend. I actually have about 60 minutes worth of comments because I read everything that closely. So if as elected council members you do not have a list of concerns, you are not serving the people of Oldsmar. Speaking of people, I think it's safe to say that most of us have some basic requirements of our elected officials and our appointed officers. And that would be that you have a working understanding of the First Amendment that you swore to uphold, and that you wouldn't sit up here and you wouldn't pass policies that violate free speech. This podium right here is a spot for free speech, and it happens here whether you like what's said or not. 2, that you wouldn't intentionally hide information from citizens or mislead us when it comes to city business. This is our city, not yours. And that you would look out for the best interests of the citizens of Oldsmar as your first and most important duty, not staff, not chamber, not developers, not outside businesses. That as elected leaders, you are actually watching what staff is doing and providing oversight. We rely on you to be more than a rubber stamp. A couple of items on this agenda that I fully expect that you'll rubber stamp, because you always do, pertains to contracts with outsiders. The last time I was here, I asked if there was a workable business plan to run the BMX track, and if there was a plan for any monies earned to be forwarded to the teen programs that we desperately need in Oldsmar. Well, I got my answer when I read the contract for the October races. If you've never negotiated a major contract for your employer, you would see what problems there are in this contract, especially if you're a citizen of this city. I'm a citizen who had to swallow spending $3 million additional tax dollars to fix that track. And I don't hold anything against the people who use it. But the fact that you're charging $3,000 for that track to be used is an insult. We're told it's a world-class track, but we are selling out our city to break even with no guarantee. We provide the trash, the potties, the EMS, all at our expense. We clean the parking lot, we tend to the track, but they get all the sponsorship and ticket sales and we get parking, but it's limited. So they have no risk. If parking doesn't meet our goals, according to the report that's attached, well, the city has money in the general fund to cover the loss. That is not a good business model. That is not how you make money to pay citizens back the $3 million for that investment. How about a maintenance fund? Otherwise, this is just going to be a long-term drain on taxpayers to continue the maintenance. Other items on here are sponsored by the chamber. Taxpayers are paying over $7,000 plus fireworks for an event that the chamber is going to make all the money off of. As my Sicilian aunt by marriage used to say, such a deal. It's a great deal for everybody but the people of Oldsmar who aren't getting what they deserve out of these events. We need to look at our own events, our image, our brand, our future. Are we as a city just facilitators for third parties to come in and use our city assets for themselves? Or are we going to have a business model that serves the people of this city? If you're actually hearing what the citizens have been saying for the last couple of years, you're hearing that good enough to get by isn't good enough anymore. I don't have time to discuss the council procedures document, but I hope someone up here does have some issues with what's on that. And the last of my time is directed to the letter of interest that's on the agenda. Last meeting, I stood here and commended the council for listening to the citizens. However, it appears that it was just for show, and that is very disappointing. If you saw the email that I sent to you last night, I shared that citizens don't appreciate being snookered, and we don't like being made to look silly. For people who are watching this, go to Oldsmar comments on Facebook and you'll see the letter that shows the city manager directing the consultants to put multi-unit rental housing as a top priority. She did ask this. It wasn't talked about when they were here at the last meeting making their presentation, but it made it into that letter of interest, and it goes against the citizen. And if you value your reputation as a city council member, I'm asking you to reject this letter as it's written. Thank you.
Anyone else on this side of the room would like to speak to the council? All right, this side of the room?
Ginger Tadazeski, 303 Park Boulevard. I'm sorry, I do have to read this tonight. I just have some thoughts tonight on the letter of interest solicitation letter that you will all be discussing this evening. There were two items that immediately caught my attention in this letter. The first one is Section 2, Offering in Concept, Paragraph 2. Quote, all of this land is adjacent to the existing city hall, which is itself a part of the total available acreage. End quote. I was unaware of the city hall being part of the package that is being offered to a developer. I don't recall this ever coming up in the GAI meeting as part of what the citizens are discussing. Nor do I recall this ever being discussed last year through all of the city council meetings that covered the downtown development. Also, I don't recall this coming up in your capital improvement meeting or any 5-year plan. As a side note, if City Hall is indeed sold to a developer, we could expect over 400 apartments instead of 316. Not acceptable. Second one, Section 3, scale of opportunity. Quote, multifamily inventory in Oldsmar itself is limited relative to the inventory of owner-occupied homes. In the broader area, rental housing demand is strong. Within a 5-mile radius of this location, there are about 15,700 multifamily units. These have an occupancy rate of 96.4% as of second quarter 2022. Rents for these units average about $1,864 per unit per month, or $176 per square foot per month. About 14% have been built since 2010, end quote. This is suggesting to developers that we are specifically asking for rental units to be included in their development packet. As I recall during the GAI meeting and the presentation of the findings of that meeting by Peter Seckler, this was clearly not what anyone asked for or wanted. In fact, this is the antithesis of what the citizens asked for. What I would like to hear this evening, as you are all discussing this letter of interest, are 2 items. What your individual thoughts are on the possible inclusion of City Hall in an offering packet and how this will affect future taxpayer money if we need to build a new City Hall. I would also like to hear, as part of that discussion, the possibility of purchasing the Baycare building and parking garage that already exists and possibly retrofitting it to meet our needs and/or renting portions not needed by staff. I would also like to hear all of your thoughts on apartments being included in this letter of interest that clearly goes against what the citizens want. Finally, I hope that you can all quickly come up with a method to start hosting town hall meetings so that we have a forum of asking and answering questions rather than citizens just reading a statement and getting no response. One last question. If any of you can answer this during the discussions this evening, where did the content of the letter of interest come from? And I honestly don't know. Specifically, who decided or authored the content, especially about the City Hall and apartments? Is this something the mayor writes or has input to? Did all of you have input? The bottom line, who wrote the letter of interest that you'll be discussing tonight? Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Evening. Justin Como, 301 Park Boulevard. I wasn't sure if this exactly lined up with the agenda item, but I figured it was safer to do it right now as the public hearing. So on back in July, I was part of the community workshop that would discuss a vision for downtown redevelopment in Oldsmar. I also had an opportunity to review the August 16th meeting on YouTube and the statement draft on Oldsmar's website. As before, I've been a fan of community workshops, and I can't stress enough the importance of these workshops, especially for a project of this magnitude. The community should be aware and have a greater say about what happens in our small community, especially while the plans are still flexible. I think we had a great format, a great turnout, and I think GAI Consultants was able to help us better understand the challenges that aren't so obvious. I don't want this workshop to just feel like a compliance hurdle that the city needed to move to the next step of the process. I'd rather the city actually hear its community and actually act on it. Trust is still in short supply between me and some of our city leaders. Density increase has only brought me further away from trusting what the city wants to do with its properties and what it's capable of doing when our backs are turned. This isn't about what our city leaders want. It isn't even about what our business owners want, because the city leaders and the businesses only thrive when the community thrives. Thoughtful planning brings about success. I've read the recent email. It seems that we're now considering selling the City Hall property to a developer, possibly even a single developer that's in the position of buying the entire property for our town center. Believe it or not, I don't hate the idea. In fact, contrary to popular belief, I don't hate the concept of development, especially coherent development. But it all comes back around to trust. Do I trust the powers that lead this community? What Oldsmar lacks is consistency and compatibility in our downtown. As mentioned prior, our downtown is a mishmash of ideas that never really got off the ground on their own. How am I supposed to trust our city officials? How am I supposed to believe that we're not going to build to this most important plot of land to its maximum potential? Because money is all that matters. The city is determined to show that it listens to its residents, but hosting workshops are not going to do any good without that trust. Trust can't be built when we still struggle to do the simple tasks, like build community centers and make it safe for kids to walk just a couple of blocks to school. That's what tears me. We can't even do the simple stuff right. I don't want to see this city even considering selling more public land to private developers without an absolute solid plan and without a plan that this community can agree on. For a project this size and importance, why are we not already having community workshops to solidify our ideas? Why are we reaching out to developers when we still have no idea what we ultimately want to develop? I want to see ideas, dozens of ideas, put before this community, discussed, ironed out, and narrowed down before we even consider a buyer or a contract. This isn't for the city planners to decide, it's for Oldsmar to decide. And I also want to mention one thing from the workshop where he said it's not about destination retail and how that never really works. What I want to see is a destination Oldsmar. I want to see things that actually bring people from Safety Harbor to our community. Maybe it's boat ramps or community centers or a more usable BMX track, sports events, etc. A lot of the things that we do as a family take place in Safety Harbor and Dunedin because there really aren't very many things to do around here. So think about destination Oldsmar. That's really what I wanted to bring up since the last workshop. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side of the room like to speak to the council? Jerry, come on up.
Jerry Beaverland, 512 Pine Avenue South, and I've lived in Oldsmar for 56 years, and I'm proud of this city. This city is a destination. That's why I'm here, and that's why these people are here, because we are a destination. And thank you for your prayer. I appreciate that. I was mayor when we started building the bike track, or the bike track. And that's an incredible achievement because that brings thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into this city. The hotels are always filled up. And a lot of those people come here and spend their money here. I'm proud of that track. I'm glad it's here. And I don't know if we're talking about the fireworks. I was mayor when we started. Well, actually, they had fireworks back in the 60s, and they quit. They quit that. When I became mayor, I started the fireworks again. It's the city's fireworks. It's nobody else's fireworks. It's because the city wants fireworks. And that's why we have fireworks. And I'm proud of the fireworks here in town. They don't belong to anybody but the citizens of Oldsmar. Other people come here because it's a destination to watch the fireworks in the city of Oldsmar. I'm proud of that. Okay, I'm going to get started now. I want to thank the council, and I commend the council for what they're doing on this piece of property over here that seems to be a continuous irritant. I'm afraid there's some misunderstanding somewhere, and it's irritating me, and I'm going to put the record straight tonight. It seems like the past councils never had any workshops or anything, and we just nonchalantly had developers come in, offer something, and then they went home. I'm going to tell y'all something. When I was mayor, we had many more workshops on that piece of land than you people have even had. many more workshops than you had. The first developer that came in, we didn't need workshops to start with because he just wanted to present to the city with what he wanted to build. If the city would okay it, he built the building at the end of State Street. And it was a magnificent plan he had. And after he presented his plan, we had some workshops on it, and I was totally against, and I will be totally against this city, the taxpayers of this city, building a parking garage. So every time the city wants to build a parking garage out of taxpayers' money, you're gonna see me up here. Anyway, he went bankrupt. So we quit that project. And I told the city manager and I got together. And I want to commend our city manager today. Because when I went to talk to her about this, she researched what we had done, which y'all should have researched what we had done throughout all of that. I told Bruce, you were here, I told Bruce, well, Bruce and I talked about it. I said, you know what? Before we go through this again, episode, we need to have a good program to present to the people. And I said, we've already dealt with the University of South Florida over the arts here in the city. And they have classes over there of architects. Let's bring them over here and plan this area over here. Great idea. City manager, Mr. Donnelly, already knew that because she researched it. So what we did, we brought, and they were willing to do it for grades, not for money, but for grades. And they came and they met with the council. We had workshops again over and over and over. And when they got all of the plans, and I'm going to tell you, if you would have asked me what the report would have been on the one you had at the hotel, I could have told you. It's the same thing we've had. It's the same thing we've had. Walkable downtown, hometown feeling. It's always been that. No 18-story buildings. And there'll never be 18-story buildings. So when they got their plans together and they mapped out that whole area, then what did we do? We set up tables with a chair in front of it, or chairs in front of it. Then we invited the citizens of Oldsmar. Now, remember this. The citizens of Oldsmar is 14,000 people. I don't know how we got here tonight, but it's 14,000 residents, 14,000 residents, not just a few. The residents across Tampa Road, they're residents just like the residents here on this side of Tampa Road. So what we did, we advertised it, everybody in this part of town, because that's who it was affecting, came. And the University of South Florida architect classes set at these different tables with different plans. And the citizens could go up to each one of the tables and start asking questions. That's how we got to the citizens where this affected them. All right, you spent $45,000, we didn't spend a dime, and got the same results as you all did. And the citizens that came, and there was many of them. Remember, we didn't have everybody across Tampa Road at that time. And they got educated because those kids told the people what to do. Okay? You can kick me out anytime you want, but I'm going to finish this. And then the next time we had this whole episode, I wasn't thrilled about it. I wasn't going to spend any money for it because I wasn't going to have citizens of Oldsmar build a stupid parking garage. Now, I have read that we've spent millions of dollars. I want the person that said that come explain to me the millions of dollars that they're talking about. We haven't spent $1 million on this whole episode. I was mayor, and they put it up for sale. They wanted $3 million, something like that. Went to Bruce went to me, and I give Bruce Haddock a bunch of credits for this. He negotiated after we bought that piece of land for something around $1.3 million, $1,300,000. And you can't count that on this episode because that was buying the land. We own the land. I sent you all a memo from me. I hope you read it. If you didn't, that's fine. I know the mayor read it. Thank you. That if you don't explain a word that you're trying to get across to the citizens, you're going to get stomped on. I saved the downtown redevelopment in 1990 because I didn't know what I was doing, but I did it anyway. Over one word, slum. And I chastised Nick. He was our planning administrator. I said, you didn't follow what you were supposed to do, Nick. You're supposed to educate the people about the word slum on downtown redevelopment. He thought I had killed it. The mayor leaned over. I could, it was all about a Henry and Ray report. I threw the Henry and Ray report over my head, and I made a motion to cut. And the council chambers was packed. The hallway was packed. Outside was packed. And I killed it. I make a motion that we kill the Henry and Ray report. I got about 4 or 5, maybe 10 or 13 seconds. Nobody wanted to face that crowd. I've always faced that crowd before, back in the 70s. And I wasn't about to face it again. So everybody out there in the audience thought I had killed the downtown redevelopment. I didn't kill it. I told the mayor leaned over and said, you've killed our downtown redevelopment. I said, no, I didn't. I saved it. I killed the Energy Array report. And I told Nick, explain on public meetings about the word slum in this thing. It does not affect anything. You people had to explain the word density, and it wasn't explained. It's not up to the city manager to explain it. It's up to every one of you to explain it to the citizens, the word density. What the program you were talking about, if I'm not correct, would there have been more density?
Jerry, it's just an open forum.
Well,
Not
okay.
question
okay.
answers.
Anyway,
Can you wrap it up for me?
I'll do that, Mayor. You've been very kind, and I thank the council for it.
Well, I have a lot of respect for you, Mayor.
I'm going to kill this thing. If you go through this again, each council member, mayor, explain the word density according to what you're trying to do. Okay? I just want to make sure that you all understood that as a mayor and on past councils, we had tons of more meetings than you all have had. I believe in that. I got sort of aggravated. I said, put it on a park.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jerry.
Anyone else on this side would like to speak to the council? With that, I'm going to close the open forum. Next item on the agenda is our community minute, which will be read by our city clerk, Ann Nixon.
Well, look at the sky. Stargazers are meeting Thursday, September 8th, 7:30 to 9 o'clock at Veterans Memorial Park. Get a stellar glimpse of our universe at this free, family-friendly program. Bring your own telescope if you have one, because it's free. Free. And then look at the water. There's a crystal clear pond, Friday, September 9th, 1 o'clock at Tico Hall Library. Join local artist Pamela Joy Trow for a free family program using creative ways to explore water pollution and encouraging individual responsibility to keep our waters clean. Youth participants receive a custom coloring book for attending, and it's free. And then look at the land. Florida-friendly landscaping, Saturday, September 10th, 9 o'clock in the morning at State Street Center. Treat your yard by learning the 9 principles of Florida-friendly landscaping and how to apply them during this free course. No registration required, and it's free. So Oldsmar has you covered by air, by sea, and by land.
Thank you, Ann. I'm glad everything's free.
Free.
All right, next item on the agenda is approval of additional new agenda items. We have item 8, 10, 12, 24, 25, and 26. I need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
I have a motion, second. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is awards and recognition, and Councilmember Graber, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Mayor Beaverland, always good to see you. Thanks for coming out tonight. I have the distinct honor of presenting the September 2022 Council Manager Award to the principal of Forest Lakes Elementary School, Mrs. Holly Huey. A round of applause. First and foremost, I want to make sure to mention that this award is being presented to Holly as principal based on the work she and her staff have done. However, Holly was gracious enough to share some biographical information about herself, so let's start from the beginning. Holly is the daughter of an Air Force veteran. She was born in England and then lived in Texas, South Carolina, Arizona, Virginia, and Maryland, and then moved to Florida in 2005. Holly received her undergraduate degree from Salisbury University in Maryland, a master's degree in curriculum from the University of Florida, Councilmember Gannon giving you a thumbs up, I'm sure, and a master's in educational leadership from USF. In addition to being principal, Holly is a loving wife and mother of 2 sons, a 4th grader at Lake St. George Elementary and a sophomore at Palm Harbor University High School. It's also my understanding that the Hueys are enormous Lightning fans. Go Bolts! And she and her husband spend most of their free time in hockey rinks since their oldest son travels with the Florida Alliance AAA team. And when they're not in the rink, they find themselves watching their youngest on the basketball court. Now, I do want to stop here because I sent this to Principal Huey for review, as I want to do when I give awards out. And she said, only one correction in true principal form. And she said, my youngest doesn't play hockey anymore. There was a red line on my version that I had to print out. So. Never leaves you. Holly began working for Pinellas County Schools in 2005 and taught both 4th and 5th grades at Pinellas Central and right here in Oldsmar at Oldsmar Elementary. Holly then went on to coach math and science instruction to teachers at Pinellas Central and High Point Elementary, and in 2018 became the assistant principal at Anona Elementary. Then, thankfully, in 2021, Holly accepted her role as principal at Forest Lakes. When Holly first joined the school, she spent the beginning of the year working to build relationships with staff, students, and families. Holly's door was open to everyone because she was intent on listening. Listening so she could know what was going well, what needed improvement, and what the values were that the school had been living by. She told me that starting in 2021 was unique due to COVID, and many of the interactions with the community had gone away and needed to be brought back. To start bringing them back, Holly contacted longtime members of the Forest Lakes family to begin building those relationships because they are key to improving student learning. Holly also made it a priority to meet with teachers in team meetings across the school to find out what instructional practices could improve. Those meetings led to small changes to small group instruction with a focus on student needs, which led to a tremendous impact on student growth. So tremendous, in fact, that Forest Lakes has been recognized as an A school this year. Job well done. Holly and her team remained focused on increasing students' learning gains. The emphasis is knowing where students are on their path to mastery of reading, math, and science standards. To enhance that effort, the school is engaging in professional learning this year to enhance the teacher's toolbox to better support students who may have academic gaps. It goes without saying that the theme at Forest Lakes is teamwork. Holly believes that school teams are essential because there have been changes to standards, curriculum, and testing, and the team at Forest Lakes is focused on continuing to be an A school despite all of the change. The goal, in Holly's words, is, quote, to set the students on an academic path to be ready for college, career, and life, end quote. As I mentioned previously, Holly became principal in 2021, so all of this work has been done in 1 year. Holly's dedication to Forest Lakes began immediately and shows no signs of stopping. The impact she has had on students and staff is not only evident within the halls of the school, but throughout the entire community of Oldsmar. And to that end, Holly doesn't know this, but we received 2 letters from members of the staff that I will read right now. Dear City Council, I love this stuff coming from the school. It's even dated. This is fantastic. My name is Kimberly Floyd, and I'm a 5th grade teacher at Forest Lakes Elementary School. I moved to Oldsmar in 2007 and can usually be seen at events around town with my 9-year-old triplets in tow. I am writing this letter on behalf of my wonderful principal at Forest Lakes Elementary, Mrs. Holly Huey. Last October, Mrs. Holly Huey stepped into Forest Lakes Elementary as our new principal. Since her first day on the job, she has gone out of her way to make the transition of having a new principal after the school year had already started as smooth as possible. Mrs. Huey quickly got to know the staff and the names of each and every student on our campus. She made herself visible to parents, students, and families every day in the afternoon car line. This year, Mrs. Huey continues to put herself out in the day-to-day action around campus and making everyone feel welcome and important. You can see her having conversations with students and helping them start their day with a smile. Only a few weeks into this new school year, Mrs. Huey has begun with a positive outlook and a plan to keep Forest Lakes on the right track in keeping our A status. As a principal, she makes everyone on the staff feel valued and supported. She celebrates her staff with a Friday email that includes pictures and messages of the wonderful things happening in our classrooms. She's also there for all students at Forest Lakes. She's implemented new recognition platforms this year to promote respect, responsibility, and safety for our students. She goes above and beyond to let parents know what is happening at school with their weekly Friday phone messages, and it's great to see so many positive changes happening at Forest Lakes because of her. As both a member of the staff and a parent of 3 4th graders, I am glad to have Mrs. Holly Huey as our school principal. I know that Mrs. Huey will continue to lead Forest Lakes Elementary in a caring, supportive, and positive way this school year and in the future. Thank you, Kimberly Floyd, 5th grade teacher, Forest Lakes, and FLE parent. City Council of Oldsmar. I'm writing this letter as a staff member at Forest Lakes Elementary School and to tell you a little bit about my principal. It has been my pleasure to have had Mrs. Holly Huey as my principal and direct supervisor for the last several months. Mrs. Huey possesses a leadership ability that encourages those around her to want to do better. She's always thinking and problem solving. Every action that Mrs. Huey takes here at school has a direct purpose. That purpose is always to make our staff and students better. She leads by example and never asks anything of you that she would not do herself. Mrs. Huey is always focused on keeping the best interests of our students first. She continually strives for ways to make our school even better for our staff and students. Students know who she is because she is always available to them, whether it's in the courtyard in the mornings, the cafeteria during the day, car circle in the afternoons, or in the office any minute in between. I am proud to be a part of her staff and look forward to continued collaboration as we grow the young learners here at Forest Lakes and continue to build a partnership with the families and business partners in the Oldsmar community. Sincerely, Stacy Rutledge, school counselor, Forest Lakes Elementary. And I do believe we have one student who wanted to read a letter. Her name is Miss Fallon O'Brien. You're no rookie. Get over here. You want to come? All right, Mom can come too. Just don't be scared.
Got this, Fallon. I love Miss Huey because she is nice, funny, and has a beautiful smile. She is friendly to all the students and teachers. She is also helpful to the students and staff. We are so lucky to have her at our school. Thank you, Miss Huey, for all you do. P.S. Steve Graber, you pick well. Love, Fallon.
Wonderful job. Fallon's mom may have won this before. I don't know. I don't remember. As you may have kind of probably guessed, we sort of kind of let everybody sort of know at the school without letting you know. And everybody who assisted with that effort, thank you. But with that, Principal Huey, it's my sincere honor to present you with the Council Manager Award on behalf of the Mayor, City Council, and the entire city of Oldsmar. Thank you for all that you have done. Congratulations.
Yes, to my surprise, I walk in and first face I see is a second grade teacher. I'm like, what are you doing at a council meeting? She must have big business here. And then I looked around and I'm like, wait, there's another face I see, another face. So thank you all for coming tonight and giving up your evening with your families to come. My family is at the basketball court and on the golf course. So my kids play a lot of sports. That's where I spend my life outside of school. So I just appreciate it. I love the kids. I love the staff. You got me the tear, but I held it together, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Graber. And Holly, congratulations. Thank you for all you do for the community and the elementary school. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is our Community Redevelopment Agency. And are there any disclosures?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as a resident who lives within the CRA, I filed a form tonight with Ann Nixon, the clerk, in regards to the conflict of interest statement.
Okay, thank you. Felicia Donnelly, will you take it from there?
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2, consideration of the letter of interest solicitation for the city-owned property adjacent to City Hall. On July 20th, the city hosted a community visioning workshop using GAI consultants to create a vision, mission, values, and goals for the city-owned property adjacent to City Hall. On August the 16th, the City Council approved the proposed vision, mission, values, and goals as presented by GAI consultants. This item requests a consideration of the attached letter of interest solicitation anticipated to be released on September 12th with responses due on October 14th, 2022. Staff recommends approval. Laura Smith from GAI Consultants is here to answer any questions that the council may have.
Laura, do you want to come on up? Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
I'm
you
going
for having
to open this up to City Council. Do we have any questions for Laura? Anyone want to start?
Do we need to make a motion for consideration before questions, or?
It's up to you. I think I'd like to start with doing discussions, because I have a feeling we're going to have some people in the council chambers that are going to want to speak to this matter.
Okay,
So I'd like to start out with council asking questions.
sure.
I just want to thank you for all your hard work. And Katie, why don't you start? Do you have any questions at all?
Sure, absolutely. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming tonight. So last meeting, we were able to receive the report with the vision, mission, values. I'm sure you saw the presentation even before we did. Can you describe for me how the actual process, like the logistical process of how GAI takes that information, the vision, the mission, the values, and puts it into this solicitation letter?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we do at GI's Community Solutions Group, because we do a lot, right? We help out with developer solicitation, developer negotiations. We also do a wide array of urban planning, redevelopment planning, urban design, landscape architecture, economic development, CRA support. We kind of run the whole range of community planning aspects. So one of the ways that we started this, of course, was with the need to really understand what the community was desiring for this site. And I think that you'll see that folded into the LOI draft that you have in front of you. I will say, we've done a lot of letters of interest, solicitations like this that we assist communities with in terms of putting out for a specific site or maybe for a partnership or something like that, depending on their specific need. But this is probably one of the more community-driven letter of interest exercises that we've assisted a client with. Typically, when we come in, the council or CRA, depending on who that entity may be, they already have a very, very clear idea of exactly what they're trying to achieve. For you all, it was, that you have this site, you're interested in figuring out what's out there in terms of what folks might be interested in doing on the site, but you also know that you want that vision and mission to be part of that solicitation. You're not just looking to hand the land over to someone to build on. You're looking for a partner. And I think that that came through very, very clearly to us from the very early conversations that we had with Felicia, and then ultimately that we heard from the community workshop. I mean, that was abundantly clear. So in this situation, there's a few things that we know you need whenever you're going to solicit these types of responses. There's a handful of, box checking things. You want to know what kind of, where they've worked before, the types of projects that have been built before. But what we really focused on here was that you have this handful of uses that have been floated, are interesting. You want to see if you can figure out how to fold these different mixture of uses together while also maintaining all of those character elements that your community was very, very clear about in the workshop and everything that we took away from that, which is why you see that mission in the LOI. And you also see a lot of reference to any proposal that comes back from a developer being responsive to those guidelines, being responsive to that vision. So you see that folded in throughout this document because, again, you're not just looking to sell a piece of property to a developer to build it as big and dense and intense as they possibly can. It's very clear from what we've worked with you all on thus far and what we heard from the community. You are looking for a partner that you can go down this path with and really get a project that's most consistent and most satisfying of all of the community's desires and goals on that site, or at least the greatest volume of them possible. So I think that's really kind of our process on this. We know there's things that you just need. You can't evaluate a proposal if you don't have a handful of very specific things, right? You need some design elements, you need a little bit of narrative, you need to know where they've done work before, the intensity. But for this one is where we really folded in the community vision and the mission that came out of that workshop, because those were really key components. From the very onset of starting to work with Felicia, we knew that was going to be right there square at the center of all of this. And going forward, it'll be the same. Whether you find a developer out of this LOI that is just the perfect fit for you all to work with, and you decide to go right into negotiations with them, or if you decide to go forward with an RFP and do a more specific selection from there, or if you decide not to do anything. Either way, we're here to help you however you need help and however we can help guide that process. And honestly, I'm excited to see what kind of responses you get, because I think it's a great site and you folded in all of these really great character pieces. So I'm excited to see the responses, honestly. And to help you evaluate them. It's exciting for us.
That was
Do you
excellent.
want to rotate or do you
No,
want me
you
to
keep
go?
going.
Okay. So during the presentation at the last meeting, it was relatively clear how the mission, values, and goals were kind of broad, and then where some liberties were taken to kind of write the narrative from the citizens, right? So he explained how these were the ideas, and then we kind of mushed together the ones that were very similar, and then, as it got more down to the, okay, what's the actual language? How can we craft this vision statement? He explained how it was kind of woven together using those themes with a little bit of, literary ability from GAI. So, for lack of a better word, who put pen to paper or cursor to screen and created this document?
So myself, along with Dr. Owen Beich within our team, as well as a little bit of assistance from Tom Kohler, who also works with our group, and of course Pete Seckler, who helped us with the workshop. We kind of collaboratively, there were pieces of it that, you know, some of us have more experience with different elements than others, so we folded this together as a group. We are very much a team effort at our practice, so we are not, you very rarely are going to get something that came from one person. It's usually a collaborative effort because different eyes, different perspectives, they're all going to do nothing but add to the overall functionality of a document like this. And making sure that you hit all those points, because everybody hears different things in those meetings.
Right,
In those
right.
workshops, and in conversations with staff, and then also with all of you. You know, everybody's going to take away different highlights from that. And it's important that those come into this fully.
So these different segments of the letter, it's sectioned Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, offering and concept, scale of opportunity, expectations and approach. That was crafted as sort of from an industry perspective, those are the pieces of information needed, and then it was tailored to what Oldsmar needs, and then our specific mission and vision statement was added there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we, like you just explained, you know, we start with kind of a rough outline.
Sure.
We know we need to give an introduction. We know we need to, you know, talk about some context. We know we need to talk a little bit about what the expectation is, what the approach is. But then you've also got all of the legal components that need to go in there. When it's due back, where you can
Right.
find it, you know, when the pre-submittal meeting is going to occur.
And
All
like
those
the
things still
maps,
need to be
the-
in there.
Yeah. Regulatory context.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. Okay.
All of that stuff still needs to be there. So you kind of start with the nuts and bolts, and then you fill in.
Okay, I gotcha. I noticed a couple of things that that I wasn't necessarily expecting, but then again, I'm not sure I mind. It seems, for example, that the net is cast wide. There is a mention of the option for the city hall being included. There's a mention of a leasehold. I know several years back in 2019, we actually had a proposal from Prime Group to reincorporate city hall into a development that kind of subsumed the current city hall property. But can you tell me why some of that language was included, like the leasehold language, or, you know, including city hall?
So that is the broad net.
Okay.
So when you're doing a letter of interest, you do not want to get into the really, really discrete elements. You want to attract, just figure out what the level of interest is in a project like this and get some much broader feedback. And then from there, you continue to refine that, which is what may ultimately lead to an RFP process based on the types of responses that you get. Or as I was explaining, you may get that perfect response to an
Right.
LOI and you're like, no need to go out for RFP. This is it. This
Yeah.
person gets us. They get what we're looking for. They get our community, and they understand how to do this on this site in the way that our residents want and in the way that we know is going to be best for the long-term economic development and economic vitality needs of our city. And when you find that person, yes, go. Negotiate directly. But if that's not the case, and you decide to go out for RFP, then that's whenever you're going to get really specific.
Okay.
Because from there, you're no longer casting that broad net, right? Now, we're really drilling down to exactly what it is that you want on that site, and you're going to be more specific. You may get into a specific mixture of uses, as opposed to simply saying mixed use and throwing out references to commercial, retail, office, multifamily apartment. Instead of saying a mix of uses and here's a bunch of uses, you may get a little bit more refined with that. Or you may start speaking more to whether it's going to be fee simple or specifically a leasehold. I mean, I think we're pretty clear in here that your preference is fee simple, but that doesn't preclude the potential for a leasehold.
Okay.
And that's because, again, you don't want to instantly isolate maybe 25% of the people who read it and say, well, we weren't interested in fee simple, we were interested in a leasehold.
Right.
Who knows, that might have been the right match and it might have been a great opportunity. So you don't want to rule those things out this early.
So this allows us to potentially cast a very broad net and then hopefully get lots of different submissions, and then we can kind of weed out based on the community's feedback to those submissions what we might want to or might not want to move forward on.
Absolutely.
Without tying us to any particular submission
Right.
legally or contractually.
You
or
have
at
no
all.
obligation to move forward with any response that you get from this, other than
Okay.
simply being in contact with the respondents and making them aware that you received their submittals
Okay.
and responding to them appropriately based on the parameters set out here.
In the dictates.
Nothing in this is going to tie you to anyone who responds to it and make you say, yes, here, you can have this land, go build this project. That is,
Okay,
this
got
does
it.
not do that. So from that perspective, exactly as you described. You will get a lot of responses, hopefully. I think you will. I know you've got a big list to send this out to, so I think you're going to get some strong responses, and it's going to help refine.
Thank you, Mayor. Those
Thank-
were my questions.
Thank you,
now.
Councilmember Gannon. Great job. Councilmember Knapp, you got anything?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. The first thing, in the spirit of Mayor Beaverland, as far as educating people, for the people here in the room, as well as those watching, probably the hundreds or thousands of watching on YouTube, could you please, just from a very basic perspective, describe, because essentially what we're discussing here is the draft of a request for letters of interest, right? Not
Exactly.
the actual letters of interest. So can you just describe that as what that process is for everybody so that we know where we're kind of heading? And then, in addition to that, based on what we are considering to proceed with, how we may be able to incorporate more citizen input and workshops in this process?
So what you are looking at today is a formal request for letters of interest. So sort of like how you might go out for, you might submit, or you might go out for solicitation through a request for proposals, where you're looking for specific proposals that detail a lot of very discrete information. This is a little bit more broad. You're looking for people to simply say, yeah, that sounds like something that might fit with the type of projects that we normally build as a developer or as a designer. And so this sounds great. Here's some information about us. Here's some things we've done in the past. Here's a few examples of work and things that we've produced that are either, recently completed and are now operational, or things that are actively under construction and substantially complete to the point where you could actually go see them if they were within a reasonable distance. But things that they should be able to then speak more specifically to in terms of how they got there, and if there was any type of funding that they were provided through the public entity in order to do that project, whether it was a public-private partnership, if it was on publicly owned lands. You'll get a feel for all of the respondents in that way. So the intent here is to garner interest. And some of that interest is going to be far wide of what you're looking for, and some of it's going to be a lot closer to what you were expecting to receive. This is the broadcast. This is the big net, right? You want to get as many people to respond to this so that you get a good cross-section of the types of things that you've probably gotten over the years. I know you've had unsolicited proposals on this site before. Some of them have probably been incredibly dense with lots of intensity also. Some may have been very, very low density, and you're thinking, maybe this doesn't work, maybe it does work. The point here is you went through the process, you decided how you want this to fold into your community. This helps them understand that if you're interested in developing this site as a partner for you all, you're going to have to understand these vision elements and the mission for this site. That's why those pieces are so critical. But from here, what will happen is this goes out, right? It gets advertised. So I know you'll have a big list. You'll probably go out to folks through ULI, through APA, FRA, various organizations that have a very deep mailing list of developers, and it'll go out to them as a general solicitation notification. Just like, as a consultant, we get RFP notifications when you're going out for planning services or landscape architecture or engineering. It'll be very similar. Developers get the same types of things. They'll receive this, they'll be able to read through it. There's a time period for them to ask questions. There's a pre-submittal meeting, which we'll participate in as well, so that we can help kind of lay that context before they even respond. Then they'll have a period to respond, submit their stuff back, and then we have a period of time to review that information with you all. The level at which you want to go back for more public engagement is going to then rest squarely with you all in terms of what your desire there is. But ultimately, what we would typically do is then take those responses, help you filter down, find the ones that you think are most consistent with what you put out there and what you're interested in getting back. And then we would go forward in either drafting the RFP, if you want those folks to now respond with a formal proposal, or if you decide you want to grab one and go straight into negotiations, or none of the above.
Okay. As a follow-up to that, as far as the content of the submission goes, and you kind of hit on it a little bit, but essentially what we're looking for as kind of the bare minimum that makes what's considered a substantial submission is it can be very high level conceptual, right? It doesn't have to have a site plan, specifics of what they're looking to build, more so like this is our body of work, this is kind of what we envision to align with the needs of the city. And from there, then it comes back to us and ideally with the citizens as well to say, hey, where are we in alignment on this? Does that sound about right?
Yes, at this stage, you wouldn't want to say, ask a developer for their financials, because you're just going to scare people away. First of all, they're unlikely to submit them at this stage anyways, even if you asked for them. And second of all, most folks are going to look at that and say, this is just a letter of interest. Why would I go to the effort of disclosing all of my financial records? That's next steps, right?
Okay. And then one final question, kind of piggybacking off Councilmember Gannon, as far as some of the content related to your draft proposal, was the timeline of the dates that are set in there, was that within consultation with city staff as far as trying to set that timeline of submission deadlines and review process and response from the city?
So yes, and I think that when Pete came and submitted or presented the workshop content findings, the mission, the vision, he also laid out that rough timeline. So as of right now, we're pretty much on our timeline. So this was our day. September 6th was our get the LOI in front of City Council day. So as of right now, we're on track. So this all tracks right with where we were at when we started off on this work. And it's important to look at this in the context of the dates, because you don't want to get lost in people's inbox, right? So getting this out ahead of fall holidays, fall breaks, all of that was important, because it's very easy to start getting lost in the holiday shuffle as we start getting closer towards November. So with the responses due back before then, it really puts you in a position to where you're at a good time frame to where you're not going to get lost in the email blitz that it starts happening towards the end of the year.
Sure. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Knapp. I just want to say that you answered a lot of questions, not only for me, but I think for a lot of the citizens that are watching and here tonight. Councilmember Graber, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Just thank you for coming and explaining it. I think when Council Members Knapp and Gannon began speaking, I was like, I had all the same stuff. I mean, in the visioning statement that came out, incorporating a contemporary mix of residential, commercial, civic, and public open space uses. So this document says, hey, this is the vision, and then professionally, this is the document that we prepare when we set out a request for letters of interest, correct? So here's some facts about the surrounding area, and that's why that information was included in this write-up. That's the only question that I had.
Absolutely, that
Okay,
is
just
exactly
making
why
sure.
it's in here. And you'll see a lot of references back to it. You know, when we talk about expectations and approach it under section 4, you see in there where it talks about while the final design, placement, implementation, and activation of any use in spaces will be the responsibility of a possible respondent, we do expect these parties to pursue concepts within the guidelines and principles outlined. So it's very clear to them from this document, because we reference back to that vision and the mission statement many, many times throughout this document. If you are not presenting something that you can really, in a paragraph or less, defend how it is consistent with this mission and with these broader vision concepts that have been laid out in this LOI request in front of you, then you're off the mark, right? That's not what our interest is. Here's where we want you to go. So it should really help refine that a bit and get the responses a little bit more in tune to what we heard from the community, so that you'll still have to weed out a few that are way off base, but
Sure.
the majority should respond consistently.
Okay, that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Vice Mayor, you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple questions going through this, and it's interesting being on this side of the LOI, because I'm usually responding to them in healthcare, so interesting seeing them put together like this. But I have questions about where we have the existing city hall. Now, I've presented, when I first got on council, a concept of that, but we've never discussed that as a council. Where did that come from?
So this was just in part of the conversations that we've been having, especially in terms of, you know, in our coordination with staff, but then also internally, that you've got this site and that's there.
Right.
So while you can take it off the table, it may or may not be an inclusive part. And so that's why it's folded in here, because if you didn't speak to it at all, or if you clearly wrote it off, then folks are gonna have to develop around it. This gives them the ability to incorporate it, or to say, hey, it may not be a good idea to incorporate it based on what we can do here. It's giving you a little bit more flexibility and welcoming ideas that maybe we hadn't really thought of before.
But aren't we setting ourselves on the same course that we were with the density, approving negotiations with the developer when density was not even in our city code? So we're going through and saying, we want to think about selling City Hall when we haven't even discussed that yet. And
That can
I
be
don't understand
removed,
why.
but I think the
yeah.
fact that City Hall is there is going to be the number one question you get in the question period. Is City Hall included? What happens to that? Do we have to be responsive in a way that's going to react to City Hall? Does it have to be incorporated? Is the parking going to be shared? Those are all big questions.
Okay.
So sometimes it's better simply to acknowledge, hey, you've got this City Hall that's there that is adjacent and may or may not be part of the development concept. That way, at least they know it's there. Maybe you're open to the negotiation if you like the project, maybe you're not, but at least they know that you're aware and you're kind of putting it out there for them right up front.
Okay. Secondly, on item 3, it said based on conversation with city consultants and various interested parties. Is that the community you're referring to there, or is that other parties that have been involved with the discussions?
No, that's going to be your staff, you all as elected officials, and then the community.
Secondly, when I read LOIs, looking through this, then in that section 3, we're kind of leading them to say we want multifamily, and it's something that there's a lot of pushback on having apartments in the area. And I think when we look at the library project and things going on there, we have condos going in there, which everybody was okay with that. And there's a concern there because when we go back to the original letter, we talked about multi-generational and building multi-generational. Do apartments drive that? Do they really build a multi-generational effort, or should we not be leading towards apartments in this letter? Because it looks like we're leading towards apartments.
I can move the first bullet point that says multifamily inventory to the second bullet point, and now it looks like you're leaning towards office. It's just the order that the bullets are in. Because it says here, a mixture of residential, commercial, and hotel, along with needed parking and support facilities. If it feels like it's leaning towards multifamily, it may be because it's the first thing in the list.
Right, it's not.
But typically that's because we always refer to residential first, but then non-residential components come second. That's just what we tend to do with documents as
No.
ourselves. Now, I mean, you reorganize that list, and it doesn't feel like multifamily's driving it, if you see what I'm saying.
No, I understand that.
Because we
But-
do talk about office, we talk about retail, we talk about hotels, we give market stats on all of those as well. It's just to show any developer coming in, look, within a 5-mile radius, you've got a lot going on, and it's all performing very well. Even if they don't end up doing a true multifamily rental product in here, the fact that the average rents that are being achieved are almost $1,900 a month on average within a 5-mile radius is a very healthy spending capacity for folks in this area. So within 5 miles, all the multifamily is averaging that kind of price point. That's a good indicator for a developer, even
Okay.
if they don't build multifamily.
I'm wondering why there wasn't a comparison of owner-occupied units in there as well. Why wouldn't you show both?
You mean, oh, well,
So what's the purchase rate per square foot of condos and apartments on the rental rate? Why wouldn't you compare all to show that we're open to all 3 options?
I mean, we could certainly put condo for sale in here, but that wouldn't work with you could make it work with a leasehold situation. It would be more complicated, but also there's nothing that stops somebody from renting out a condo.
Right.
So even if you had condos and there were 100 condos built here, they could just as easily all be bought by investors and all be rentals, just like multifamily apartments could be.
Okay. The last thing I had was under section 6, letter of interest. Section 5, it seemed and I understand, we're going to get hopefully 200, 300, 400 responses, and the reading time to do all that and understanding limiting that. But I've never seen a limitation like this in an LOI, limiting someone to tell the story, to sell what they have. Are we reducing our opportunity here by saying you're only limited to a certain amount of words on what you can respond to on the LOI? And is that going to preclude somebody from getting us enough information to say they're the right partner?
What you don't want to do is inadvertently encourage someone to expend an enormous amount of money putting something together, because that could have a potentially negative backlash to it. You know, developers put together, you don't put any limit on it. And so then people expend a lot of capital to come up with a proposal. Like, I mean, if you've responded to LOIs before, then, you know, it's not a small undertaking.
Right.
And so the more that you constrain that down to 12 pages and try not to go more than a half a page to a page with 500 words on this and that, as you do that, it helps them understand the scale at which they're responding, so that you don't get those super detailed designs that they then expended a lot of their own capital up front to develop, only for then maybe you all decide to go a different route, maybe you decide not to pursue at this point, and for them it's like, well, man, why'd we even bother? We really thought we were there. And that's where you don't want to get sideways with folks, and then them feasibly come back and say, well, you encouraged us to do all of this and to spend all of this money and time and resources. So instead, by keeping it to a brief response, plus you also want to be able to review it, and if you give people, you know, an endless amount, you're not going to be able to compare apples to apples.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Great job, great presentation. I just have a couple comments I want to make to council. One of the things that I talked to Felicia about was the lease sale that Katie, Councilmember Gannon, you brought up. The city of Largo, I was in a meeting with them, and the city of Largo they're trying to build their downtown area and redevelop their area, and they actually are leasing the land. And that's why I brought it up, that I wanted that added to the RRA, so the LOI, so we could see if we have anything for a lease or sale. Because all we've been really talking about is selling the property. So now we have opened up another gate or another door for those opportunities. The other thing I wanted to mention that you did a really strong point. This is just a letter that's going to be mailed out to a bunch of developers around the United States, all over wherever. And this letter is we're just trying to bring in people an opportunity for our land that we have, whether it's a sale or a lease.
Right.
This is just a letter. And as Councilmember Knapp said, we're going to have plenty of workshops for everyone to attend, so everyone can voice their opinion on what should be built. But right now, this letter is strictly for bringing developers in so we can get this opportunity on the right road, correct?
Yes, this is just that first. I was talking to Felicia before, and I told her, I said, you know, there's so many steps in a process to developer solicitation and then development negotiation and then developers agreements and all these things. This is step one. This is just the toe in the water, right? To just kind of test the temperature of things, see what kind of responses you get, and if those are something that is amenable to the path that you want to go down.
And as Vice Mayor, what you mentioned, you know, the apartments, townhomes, what Laura said, people could buy them and they can lease them out. So we have to keep our eyes open, keep our ears open. Let's get some developers in here to give us some opportunities and find out where we're going to go next.
And I will say, we added a component into this that also speaks to the idea of incorporating other ideas outside of what's listed here. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, so then under section 4, about the third paragraph, we say, while committed to the vision described, we welcome additional ideas about feasible or supportable programs or uses, especially their scale and siting requirements. So in the event that maybe you've got a developer who's thinking, I got a great idea for townhomes with some restaurant and public space mixture type uses in there that really seems consistent, and it's completely separate from, you know, it doesn't involve hotels and it doesn't involve multifamily apartments, but it's still a mixture of uses, right? And it may be perfectly consistent with the community vision. So you don't want to rule those things out. You're just floating out a concept.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion? Katie, Councilmember Gannon?
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a question for our city manager, but I don't have any further questions for how, I just wanted to check on how you wanted to proceed from this.
What I'd like to do, just hold that, okay?
I will.
Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? I want to give the public an opportunity to speak. If anybody would like to say anything, Ginger, come on up. Thank you, Laura. Don't go too far.
what I said before, Ginger Tadaszewski, 303 Park Boulevard. If we ask for apartments, we will get apartments, which is exactly what no one wanted in the GAI workshop. No one wanted apartments. If we ask for them, we'll get them. If we ask for townhomes and condos, maybe we'll get them. And yes, they could be rented, but most have a homeowners association agreement or a condo association that limits the number of rentals. So what we ask for, we'll get. If you want to go absolutely against what the citizens want, you'll ask for apartments.
Any other questions before I could, come on up. James, right?
Yes. James Hummel, 132 Arlington. Since I was here the last meeting and the gentleman presented what the visions were for this site, I was in contact with the FDOT, and what they did down in Clearwater is they put a development in, and they did it on 30 acres, I believe. And after the building was done, they had noise issues, and now the city of Clearwater has these loud noises of cars. Now, I mentioned before that the only way that you're gonna get FDOT involved, because you have that 2-lane roads going into one, the city of Oldsmar needs to come together with the council, present it to FDOT, and they'll work with you in putting sound barriers in.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak before I call Laura back up? Come on up.
Pam Settle, 439 Lakeview Drive. I just really want to echo what Ginger said. I mean, I feel like when you put it out there, multifamily rental housing, and that's the number one consideration on that letter, and we have, increased the density, that's where people are going to go. You're going to get back what you put out there, and the same thing with the hotel. I didn't think you wanted a hotel because the Marriott was upset about us thinking about building another hotel. So why would you put a hotel and apartments as two things that you want people to consider in this letter of interest? I mean, what you ask for, you get. We're casting a net, but we're putting out bait. You have 4 pieces of bait on that letter. So you're gonna get apartments because that's where people are looking to spend their money right now because people are moving to Florida. Yeah, we get that. But that's not what we want for this section of Oldsmar. We don't want apartments and we don't want a hotel on that space. We need to be creative with the other things that people asked for. It was fairly unanimous of what people wanted, and they didn't want apartments. So for apartments to show up, rental, multi-unit family housing is just another word for apartments. There are other places we can build apartments. There's plenty of apartments in this area, and there's space to build more. This is not what this land was for. It's for the destination Oldsmar. And you have to make that the priority in the letter because people aren't really looking at our mission statement. They're looking at what are those 4 pieces of bait? Oh, okay, apartments and a hotel because they up the density. So that must be what they want. So you got to put it out there correctly. I don't think that should be in the letter. I think it needs to be changed.
Thank you. All right, anyone else before Laura? Laura, come on up. So do you mind answering a couple of those questions for us? Would you mind?
Absolutely.
maybe
So I
co-
was,
oh,
I
go ahead.
participated in the workshop. I was there. So the purpose of the workshop was not a survey on uses. Remember, I mean, I think Pete was pretty clear in his presentation that he did with all of you of what came out of that workshop. We talked a lot about scale. We talked a lot about intensity. We talked a lot about street treatment, how intensity and density look and feel different if they have proper street treatment, how they interact with the street that they're adjacent to can make a much denser or more intense development feel a lot less intense whenever you treat it correctly and provide the appropriate amount of scale and context material around those buildings in the form of plantings and sidewalks. All of those things are important. But what we didn't do in the workshop was say, how many people want apartments, raise your hand. That didn't happen there. We had a lot of really great conversation about what do you want to do here? If this is your town center, what do we do at your town center? What do you come to town center to do? You come here to mix, you come here to mingle, you come here to enjoy time with friends, you come here to shop, you come here to, enjoy a meal, you come here for entertainment, you come here for community purposes. All of those things came out of that workshop. And that's why whenever we start pulling all of this together, we're looking at all of those elements, which is why they're folded in here. Now, I understand and am very, very sensitive to the topic of multifamily rental units. However, the site being developed, your desire is for it to be a mixture of uses. If we take multifamily residential off the table, and we take hotels off of the table, other than for sale residential, what is your mixture of uses? It becomes very difficult to then frame out a mixed use concept if you just keep striking things off the list that are even an available option. It could be that you don't get a response back that has any multifamily apartments in it. But for some developers, they're gonna look at this as the only way that the pro forma works is to blend those types of uses in as an income driving use that folds in with the retail or office uses that may also accompany and complement that other use. Whether those are for sale units or for rent units, that's a negotiation that can be had once that you start down this path a bit more. If there is an absolute resistance to anything that is rental, then that is something that this council can certainly decide to do. You pull it out of the LOI, your responses you're gonna get are gonna be retail and office. And some for sale residential if you're open to that. But your density standards, those are still gonna be there even if it's condos.
Thank you. Okay, so the letter that we have right here, can we change it at all, or is it?
Yeah, it's a draft.
Okay, okay.
But I think, you want to do that in an expedited manner because as,
I know, we have a
based on your
timeline.
schedule you've got, you really
Right.
do want this thing to get out there very quickly. And, what happens is there's these lead tracking bots that pull your minutes, extract information out of them, and then start reporting them to paid advertising lead trackers. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. So some of this is already out there in the development community as pre-lead. Hey, check it out. Oldsmar's thinking about doing this, so keep an eye out. It's going to be coming. Because they extract that data out of your minutes and then start feeding it into leads that people pay to subscribe to lead trackers for. So just so you know, some of this is already out there in the development community. They know it's coming and they're keeping an eye out for it. Not the specifics, just the fact that Oldsmar's got an 8-acre site that they're thinking about a developer solicitation on.
I think as some of the residents just spoke, they said that they would like to change the multifamily, maybe the townhomes, or maybe condos. Could we add those words?
What if we just changed it to residential
There you go. Keep it generic.
and just drop the rental part? Because even if it's condos, they're gonna be attached to each other. They're gonna be multifamily. I guess townhomes wouldn't technically be multifamily, but we could change it to just be a mix of residential, if that would help, because that way it's out there. Folks are
I
gonna
mean, for
submit
me,
what
I
they
think
in
for
terms
me,
of
it would
residential.
help. Okay, for me, I think it would help with what we just heard. And I'm speaking for the council, I think, right now. I think we just want developers to join in and give us the opportunity, whether it's apartments, townhomes, condos. We just want developers to give us an opportunity to hear what they have to say on what they will build next door.
And you're still committed to this being a mixed-use site, correct? You want more than one use? You don't just want,
We
1,000
definitely want,
condos?
we definitely want the mom and pop coffee shop, the little breakfast cafe, the brewery. Yes, we definitely want that.
Gotcha. But yeah, that's a quick fix if that's something you want to do. And like I said, we can pull, that's a quick fix. We could probably have that back over to Felicia with that quick address, that quick change made, by close of business tomorrow.
I don't want to be the only one to suggest that, so I want to go around the room. I'm going to start with Councilmember Gannon. Would you like to add anything to this, please?
Again, I still had a question for the city manager.
Go ahead.
Felicia, just a quick check. On Exhibit A, the subject parcels map, I just want to make sure that I understand that these parcels with the A being the area on which City Hall is located, that's the largest, the 2.29 acres. And then moving down from there, B right next door there along Washington, 1.22 acres. These are all still platted like this, correct? This has not been combined into a giant site.
Correct. This came
Okay.
straight from the property appraiser site.
Right from the property appraiser site, okay.
These
And
are the
then-
actual parcel IDs. just
Right,
to be
and then the parcel numbers, okay. And then the uses came right from our code.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any problem with wordsmithing it to a certain extent to make it clear that we're trying to cast a wide net. I don't think we need to torture it too much. I want to, to me, there's a difference between, okay, I don't want apartments versus I don't want 300 apartments, right? So, for example, over near the library project, it would have been different if we were looking at a proposal for, 100, the maximum, whatever amount of units to go there versus what ended up happening. Buse and Rushnell came back with a reduced number of units to improve the quality and the look and add more community space. So I'm not afraid of including the word apartment or rental or however you want to word it. My goal is to make sure that we cast a wide net, give some data about the area. I don't care what order you put the bullet points in. I do think it's important to include some data about the area, though, whether it's about rentals or hotels. I think that gives some information about the transiency. I think that gives some information about the amount of office space we have. There's been some discussion about how much more office space we need, how much more medical office space. But again, we're not talking about uses yet. So I think I've kind of explained, but I do want to be careful of excluding certain specific uses now. If we get a bunch of submittals back that are, just giant apartment, okay, then we can talk about that then. I just want to make that clear that I want to cast this broad net. I want to find out, even if it includes the City Hall property or part of it, because it is right now the largest parcel at 2.29 acres. It's more than a third, so that's my thought.
Thank you. And just to add off on that, back in 2016, the University of Tampa did a presentation for council.
Yeah.
And they talked about getting rid of the city hall.
Yeah, moving,
They talked about getting rid of city hall and making it one big development area.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, thank you. Councilmember Knapp, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I would like to comment also about the concept of renting and when it comes to it being an apartment, right? Because I think as evidenced by folks who had strong opposition to previous concepts that were before this council or maybe prior councils, a lot of the voice or opposition was around density. And I want everybody to keep in mind, think to yourselves, and if the council feels free to share, how many of you rented at one point in your life?
Paid a lot.
How many of you
Tampa.
rent a home now?
Oh, you do? I didn't know.
Okay, so I bothered somewhat by the stigma that I think always gets attached to rentals and people that rent. They're not all bad. So let's just clear the air on that. And I think, again, as Councilmember Gannon stated, I think it's more so about the scope or the scale of what happens there is what more people are concerned about in creating that hometown feel. There's houses that are being rented in downtown Oldsmar right now. Where's the uproar about that? I don't hear that. So I've said my piece. Thank you.
Councilmember Knapp, thank you very much. Councilmember Graber.
I view the reference to rental housing, as I indicated before, as letting them know what's around here and what it's going for. I understand words matter, right? And so you read it and you say, oh, okay, they want rental units. It's not really what it says. And if we're dealing with savvy developers, which I'm guessing is the responses that we'd want back, we want folks who know what they're doing. They're going to be able to read the words on the page. Just putting mixed use of or residential mix, however that you worded it, okay, I mean, they're gonna know what that means as well. If that needs to be changed, I guess I would just have a procedural question as to how we were gonna do that, because we were supposed to approve this. And so that's gonna push it another couple of weeks, but okay, if that's what needs to be done, then fine. But as it's written, move the bullet points around however we wanna do it. I was comfortable reading through this, that we took this information, boiled it down to this. We're understanding that we're sending it out, a request for letters of interest. We're just saying, hey guys, as many people who are interested, we want to hear from you, and then we want to look to see what you've been doing, what you're currently doing, what maybe your plans are for the future, that sort of information, so we know, okay, this is somebody that we can probably begin discussions with. So changing the document, I don't think it's worthwhile at this point.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Andrew, Councilmember Knapp, question for you, not to get into an argument here, but when I moved here in 14, I rented a house for 2 years, and I discovered Oldsmar. I discovered I wanted to stay here. When, from 14 to 16, was I engaged in the community? Not really. Did I care about where I lived? Not really. And to compare your argument, I mean, that's a case study of one. In your case study of one, you know, if we can go around, who was born here in Oldsmar, right? Who was raised here, who spent a lot of time here, who has home, family, and everything here. So I appreciate the questions and I understand it, but I also know that I don't believe that apartments drive the sense of community by the type of tenant that goes into apartments. That's my concern about apartments. It's not multifamily. Whether it's townhomes, condos, or apartments, I understand that. But when it's an apartment complex, in 5 to 10 years, it's gonna look like every apartment complex in Oldsmar, because there's no HOA, there's no requirement to keep it up, and it's gonna look like, to put in Jerry's words, a slum in 10 years because of the deterioration of the building. That's my fear when it comes to apartments. Townhomes, HOAs, condos, we've all been okay with that with the library project. So I get where we're going. I want to be cautious of that. I don't think we need to rewrite it. Looking at it, if we're just casting a broad net, let's see what we get. But I just think we're leading the developers to believe that we want apartments.
All right. So I don't think we're going to change the document. We're going to leave it alone.
I will say, I did just look back because I thought there was one spot that said rental residential in the context of uses. In the
Where are
context of
you?
uses, it does not say rental anywhere. It says residential units.
Okay.
The only place that we ever talk about multifamily rental is where we say no formal market studies have been completed for this preferred mix of uses. Having made that observation, we talk about what multifamily is doing in terms of performance, we talk about office, we talk about retail, and we talk about hotel.
Right.
So I thought there was one spot where we said rental resident, or multifamily rental residential units, and we don't. It's always called out as a combination of residential units. It's never called out as multifamily residential in the mixture of uses. The only place where that spot is referenced is in the first bullet point.
I want to thank you for your time and all your hard work and what you've done. I want to thank the council for all your comments, the citizens for all your comments. You're being heard, we're listening. And with that, I want to add one more thing before you leave, Laura. City Manager, do you want to ask anything, or do you have any comments that you'd like to share with us?
I do have one comment that I would like to share. City staff, we've been working very diligently to try to put together a list of appropriate people to send this solicitation to. So we have Urban Land Institute, APA, the American Institute of Architects. We've got Florida Redevelopment Association. We're planning to put an advertisement in the St. Pete Times, which is we have our own city list where we've developed targets out of any major developer in Florida. We have a Commercial Real Estate Development Association. And so far we have about upwards of 13,500 people on that target list that we're sending to. And just for reference, the The last time that the city underwent this effort through CBRE, I was told CBRE sent it out to 4,000 people. So just so the scope of that, to really cast that wide net, staff has been working diligently on preparing that list of targets.
Thank you. All right, with that, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion, I'm looking for a second.
Second.
All right, I have a second. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Councilmember Knapp.
Just for the purposes of discussion and to help address one of Ginger's question, would anybody like to comment on, and I'll be happy to lead off, if there's the interest of discussing City Hall?
Sure. Want to discuss City Hall?
Me
You lead off.
personally, I know that the building is to an extent dated, and I, as I shared with Ginger in a phone call and discussion with Felicia, that, you know, it's been built, there's building codes that have been improved since then. I'm not saying publicly that I want to see it replaced. I'm just open to the possibility. Again, casting the net wide, that as many things are on the table for the purposes of this process. That's where I stand.
All right. Any other comments?
No.
I just have one comment that since you brought it up, I've talked to Felicia in length about it. The building is what, 35 years old now, right? And it's going to need some improvements. I don't have a problem with either getting rid of City Hall. Felicia and I have talked about it. There's an excess of space. There's not enough employees to fill the space there anymore. A developer could come in and take that property and make it into a brewery, whatever they want to do with it. I think it's a great opportunity for us to focus ourselves on getting a new city hall somewhere. And Felicia and I have talked about that, but that's here and there. We're working on it. But yeah, I think that was a great conversation. And Katie, would you like to add something?
I mean, like you said, Mayor, I feel similarly, you know, cast the wide net. I know City Hall does have certain issues with maintenance specifically, and I'm certain the wind mitigation study and some of our resiliency information will say that having a building facing the water with the entire front made of glass might not be the best plan. You know, at the time that it was, you know, built, absolutely state of the art. But as we look at our capital improvement budget and things going forward, I think it's worth entertaining an idea. You know, let's see what they say. I have no idea what that might look like financially or structurally or where or when, but let's talk about it.
I agree. You guys would like to add anything, any council member? No?
Who has
Yes, Mayor?
interest? Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right. Yeah, yes, I'm gonna allow you to come up once more. Yes, come on up, please. Justin, yes.
Justin Como, 301 Park Boulevard. To Andrew's, what he was saying before, I'm not exactly opposed to having a certain number of rentals in such a mixed-use housing development. The only thing I just want to add to that is we went over this whole density thing all of last year, and you know, I kind of feel like we brought this on ourselves with the discussion that we could have a lot of smaller apartment units, which can add to traffic issues, and having more short-term residents. Are you renting a house or?
The house.
Yeah, so a larger home, you can see a longer-term rental in that type of situation because you have room to grow. In smaller apartments, a lot of people, they move in because they're a certain part of their life. Then they're ready to grow and move on from that. So, you know, it all comes back to the density and whether or not we absolutely needed that. And then as far as the city hall, you know, I just want to mention, I think that having that idea on the table kind of gives us a more cohesive plan for downtown because it gives us a larger plot of land for ideas and development to come in and not have this mishmash of different styles, different developments that just aren't working for us. So it is an idea. I just want to make sure that we have a plan in place before we just scrap City Hall.
Of course. All right, we will. Don't worry, we'll have a plan.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming. All right, Ann, would you like to do roll call, please?
Councilmember Graber,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Buckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Saraki.
Yes.
Letter of interest solicitation for the city-owned property adjacent to City Hall is approved by 5 votes for and 0 against.
Next item on the agenda is the consent docket, which will be read by our city clerk, Ann Nixon.
Item number 3, approve minutes of the August 2nd, 2022 council meeting. Item number 4, approve minutes of the August 3rd, 2022 work session on the proposed operational budget for fiscal year 2022-23. Item number 5, approve minutes of the August 16, 2022 council meeting. Item number 6, award contract with Red Zone Robotics Incorporated for wastewater collection system condition assessment services under the same pricing terms and conditions as the Brevard County request for proposal number 7-22-05, piggyback 22-15. Item number 7, award contract 2022-002-RFQ for professional services for construction, engineering, and inspection for Douglas Road Project Phases 1 and 2 to DRNP Incorporated. Item number 8, authorize city manager to execute engagement letter with Wells, Hauser, and Schatzel, PA for the independent audit of the city's financial statements and to assist with the preparation of the annual comprehensive financial report as of September 30, 2022. Item number 9, authorize execution of work order number 20 of 2018-007-RFQ with Ardura Group Incorporated for professional services for the wind mitigation study.
Thank you. I think that's the biggest consent docket I've seen. All right, do I have does anyone wish to pull anything? Nope, I need a motion to approve. I have a motion, a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item number 10, approval reappointment of John Jack Paskert as alternate member of the Veterans Advisory Board, retroactive from June 20th, 2020. John, I believe you're here. Would you like to come up? How are you today, sir?
All right, how are you?
Good. I've got some things I would like to ask you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right, I looked at your attendance record, and I've noticed that you haven't missed any meetings.
Is that good?
That's good, I guess. I'm trying to find where I'm at. I lost my item. Wait, hold on, let me get over here. I got some questions here for you. So my question is, I watched the Veterans Advisory Board meeting and saw your presentation that you did to the board. And I think what I'd like you to do is, can you explain to us a little bit of what more the city of Oldsmar can do for veterans, for the city of Oldsmar? Because we do so much already. In your presentation, you mentioned that we should do more.
What do you do, in your opinion?
Well, I'm going to give you an example. Would you like me to?
Sure, that's exactly what I
Okay, as a new mayor of the city of Oldsmar, I was invited to be in the Florida League of Mayors. It was a Zoom call with mayors around the state. In the first meeting that we had, it was about our Memorial Day celebration. And I talked about the speech that I gave to the people about my uncle Walter, who gave his life. And you happened to be there. Well, when I found out that most of those cities, they do nothing for Memorial Day. They do nothing for Veterans Day. Our city is definitely a veteran city. And I wanted to share that with you, that we do a lot for the city of Oldsmar for veterans.
That is a concept, and I accept that, and I understand that, all right? Also, if the whole purpose of the Veterans Board pretty much is to vote whether a veteran that has lived in Oldsmar wants their name inscribed on a stone in Veterans Park as a memorial. And those are three memorial type things, all right? They don't do much to help the veteran live day-to-day life. When you're in the service, most people talk about, after they get out, returning to their communities and getting on with their lives again and reintegrating themselves into the communities that they've served. Because a lot of times they live on military installations apart from the communities. There are a lot of issues, especially for disabled veterans, okay, where we have a lot of issues with getting on with our day-to-day lives. My particular one, all right, is making my property to where I can have mobility around it. I think one of the issues you were talking about in development was the concept I've heard is universal life, where as you go through different stages of life, you adapt your property to as you get older. That's one of the things you can't do here very well, all right? There are certain elements within City Hall that don't particularly like that concept. They want to get you, oh, you're older, get the hell out. And they try to force that issue upon you. So those are the types of things that I'm talking about. One of the things I thought was an idea in military hospitals, if you have a problem with getting medical care within hospitals.
I heard that in your presentation.
In the ombudsman, all
Yeah.
right? Well, if you don't want an ombudsman, fine.
Right.
But there are ideas out there and stuff. That's my point to answer your question is, you know, more help for getting through the day-to-day lives of the veterans because they have very specific issues and needs apart from normal citizens.
I have two more questions for you.
And answer your question first.
And then I want the council to, I'm going to let the council, if they have any questions for you also. It says here you've been a member since 2016. You've always been an alternate member.
Right.
Why haven't you become a full-time member? Can you explain that to us, please?
Because as an alternate member, I've done exactly what I'm supposed to do. Show up when the rest of the guys don't show up. So you can make sure that you have a quorum.
But you can do the same thing as a full-time member.
No, but then if somebody else doesn't show up, I didn't fill the bill.
Okay?
I see no difference really in being an alternate member or a full-time member. My ego is not such that I need to be a full-time member or anything
All right,
like
I
that.
have
I'm
one-
perfectly happy filling that requirement.
Well, I guess you've been asked. Have you accepted it ever? Did you ever accept that
No, I think
opportunity?
you've asked me twice now, and I've said no.
Okay. I have one last question that I'm going to let the council ask. You've been on the Veterans Advisory Board since 2016. Share with us one of your major accomplishments on that board.
I've been to every meeting.
There you go. Does anybody else would like to ask any questions or any comments? Councilmember Knapp, anything? No? So John, as the mayor, I've made a decision. I think I would like you to take a break from being on the Veterans Advisory Board for 6 months, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Be more than happy to do that for you.
I'd like you to take a break, and then in 6 months, I'd like you to come back to council or to the city clerk and ask if you would like to, if you'd like to be reinstated. Would you mind doing that for me?
I have no problem with that.
Thank you very much. Okay, council, I need a motion to, John Paskert will not be a Veterans Advisory member anymore.
Was this being tabled, or is this done?
So this is a motion to approve reappointment. And you remember that the issue with regard to this is that, there was action that was taken by the board when Mr. Paskert was there that I'm concerned about was not adopted, could be argued it wasn't adopted appropriately because Mr. Paskert voted even though he wasn't appointed. So I would request that you appoint him retroactively to June 20th, 2020 to cover those issues, effective through today. So today would be his last day on the board.
Thank you.
Either that or to finish out his What would be the normal finish out of his term? When is that?
2024, July.
Okay. So you would basically be reappointing him through today's date, from June 20th to today's date, and then he would be off the board for 6 months. Or it would be terminated as of today, based upon his consent. And he's shaking his head yes in the audience. So we really need to get that motion
Okay.
retroactively to June 20th
So I
to today.
take that back. I need a motion to approve his Veterans Advisory Board retroactive from June 20th, 2020 to today.
Till today, terminated today.
Yes.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, John, for your service. I appreciate it. I'll be in touch with you in 6 months. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the presentation from Empower Adventures Operation of Tampa Bay LLC. Joe, come on up. Thanks for hanging in there, buddy.
Good evening, Council. My name is Joe DeRing. I'm here with my colleague Sarah Sterling and Calvin Joustra. We run Empower Adventure Operations over at Mobley Bayou Wilderness Preserve, 423 Lafayette Boulevard, and we're here to give you our annual update of operations, working in conjunction with the City of Oldsmar and Leisure Services. So, for those who may not know, Empower Adventures is our mission and our purpose is to allow individuals to find the best version of themselves through adventure. That's why we call ourselves Empower Adventures and not, Oldsmar Zipline Place.
I like that. I like this better.
So I'll go through a couple of slides here. You'll see a little bit about what we do. Really, for us, one of the last slides is the most important, but we'll give you some of the more detailed information up front. So whoever's controlling the slides, if we could go to the next one, please. That's us. Next slide. All right, so as you can see, we're going to start off with our operations side. Calvin Joustra is our operations manager. He runs the day-to-day, all of our guests in and out, as well as all of our staff and safety, so I'm going to let him go through these slides.
All right, thanks, Joe. Kind of recapping what we did last year and what we've done up until June of this year so far. Last year, 2021, we had just under 14,000 people come out and participate with us through whether that's our regular recreational tours or birthday parties, group programs, team building opportunities, whatever it might be. Of those participants, you can see about 9% of those were from birthday parties, team building, and leadership development programs. We also had almost 5,000 people come from within 25 miles of Oldsmar. So we are definitely bringing in people into the city to be able to enjoy it. This year so far, we've seen just under 7,000 people, so we are on pace with last year. And you can see with the participants with our birthday parties, team building leadership programs, as well as those people coming within 25 miles of Oldsmar, those percentages are trending higher than they were last year. So all great signs with all of that. We can go to the next slide. Just wanted to give you guys a just an overview of like what a typical schedule looks like for us. We have several slides here coming up, but you can kind of go through them. But we had the Florida Aquarium come out for their summer camp. We had various recreational tours. This one here we had River Ridge Middle School up in Pasco County come out, their teachers, to do a team building program. And as you can see on the weekends, we are very, very busy running lots of tours, lots of people coming out, being able to empower them through adventure experiences. We have nearly 3,000 reviews on Google with a 5.0 rating on Google, as well as a 5.0 Facebook review rating with over 1,000 reviews from that. I included one of those reviews, just really loving the experience. They're lived in Tampa their whole lives, never knew the zip line was here in Oldsmar. So bringing in people who may have not known about Oldsmar and everything that it has to offer, and being able to show them a great time while they're out here. We have a new format for our paddleboarding tours. We are now doing a private tour, so people can book with anywhere from 2 to 4 people and kind of and have a nice private experience for an hour and a half to 2 hours out on the water. It's a great add-on for people who want to do the zip line, go up in the air, and then be on the water afterwards for a little bit. We're anticipating some great participation in this through when tourism season kind of kicks back up again, and we're going to continue to see growth as we promote it on our social channels and elsewhere as well.
All right, we can go to the next slide. So the first thing here is just kind of talking a little bit about some of the stuff we're seeing on digital. We've increased our paid search and SEO efforts. We are seeing a lot of competitors buying up branded terms, as well as an opportunity to take advantage of things to do after COVID and people started getting back out and doing things. So we were able to see a really effective cost per click and things to do in Oldsmar, things to do in Tampa Bay, things to do near here, there, wherever, kind of in the general market. So we really took advantage of that. Over this 18-month, if we could go back one. Over the 18-month period, we saw 182,000 users to the site, and 181,000 of them were new users. So we're driving new users uniquely in those 18 months for a total of 240,000 sessions, essentially. Of those users, over 8,000 of them are from outside the U.S., about 5%, with 66% in Florida and 29% outside of Florida. This aligns with a lot of those drive markets like Atlanta and Mississippi and Alabama post-COVID in 2021. This is higher for outside of Florida than it's been in the past, but it's still good to see. It's getting people here and familiar with our area. Within Florida, the top 5 areas are Tampa, Orlando, Miami, St. Petersburg, and Brandon. Seeing Brandon and St. Petersburg have a higher stake this year than Clearwater and Safety Harbor over past years. So we're seeing them come from a little bit further, again, that post-COVID drive market stuff. Our Google visibility has increased dramatically. We've put a lot of efforts into SEO, whether it's blog writing or making sure that we're updating our Google My Business regularly with content and updates. For our listing being viewed 150,000 times on Google Maps over the last 12 months, with 15,000 times on search results and 4.4 thousand website clicks driven just from Google My Business map listings. They're looking for things to do near me, attractions, zipline near me, branded terms, and fun things to do near me to find us. So we're seen as a fun thing to do in the area. We've also included paid search keywords with the words Oldsmar, as well as other local markets and the kind of cities and areas that we'll pull from, but it is highlighted in a lot of our paid search efforts. And as Calvin mentioned, we have a 5-star average on Google. We have 2,955 reviews on Google alone, and this is up from 500 reviews in May of 2019. So over the course of 3 years, we've increased it by about 2,000, which is great. Another thing that we've really focused on is how we're reaching people on social media in an effective and efficient manner. TikTok is all the rage, and I get it, and it seems like a really weird thing for a small business like ziplining to do, but we took a risk and we saw it as our own adventure. And over the we started in October, so 10 months, we've seen a huge, huge growth opportunity. We went from 0 to 115,000 followers with 3.2 million likes. Wow. Our top 3 TikToks have 11 million views, 2 million likes, 33,000 shares, with 116,000 people bookmarking it. The comments on this are, where are you guys? Where can we visit you? How can we see you? How can we book? How do we get there? And then the second one at 3 million, you can see all the stats. I won't bore you with those. And then 2 million views. So a total of 16 million views over the course of June, July, and August. This is huge for the business. It allows us to talk about how awesome adventure is, but also empowering others. And it also gives us the opportunity to highlight the local area as best as we can when people are asking about where we are and how to visit us. And in terms of how does it impact the bottom line, because this man here always asks me, we started tracking how have you heard about us and added TikTok. Well, we've always tracked it, but we added TikTok in June of 2022. And since then, this was through the end of August, we had a total of 73 reservations for 183 people for a total of about $15,000 in revenue just from TikTok.
Who clicked TikTok? Wow.
So we're
that's
on Tampa Bay on TikTok if anybody wants to follow.
I was going to say, I need to follow.
But it's done really great for us. So in terms of how do they hear about us, Google search, the increased efforts on paid search as well as SEO has made a big difference, really boosting those numbers up. Return visits, we've seen a lot more return visits over the last 2 years than in the past. Again, not surprising with post-COVID activity and trends, as well as family or friends, social media. Visit Tampa Bay is a great partner of ours, as well as Visit St. Pete Clearwater, and then people who are coming through the park and just like, hey, who are you? What is this? We talk to them. We've also really boosted up our strategic partnerships a lot recently. Obviously, we work with the city of Oldsmar. I work with Deb directly on marketing stuff. We've been working with Operation Jack's Village on initiatives for Veterans Day and things to help support what they're doing. Upper Tampa Bay Chamber, very involved there, obviously. Amplify Clearwater, we've worked with the Florida Aquarium. Oldsmar Elementary is on the Great American Teach-In. We've worked with St. Cecilia as well with team building and end of year, beginning of year kickoff programs. The Phoenix, which supports recovering addicts. We've been doing some programs with them to help empower the people that they're serving. Visit Tampa Bay has been huge for us. We've had several influencers and media visits come out to feature us as one of the highlights of the Tampa Bay area, which is just part of our relationship with them. We were featured in their 2022 TV campaign for Out of Market. They came out and filmed, so we're in like the bold Tampa ads, which is really cool for us. And then in Visit St. Pete Clearwater, we were featured in their Oldsmar Spotlight as well. This year we did establish a partnership with Visit Florida to have an enhanced listing, as well as get more involved on their adventure travel panels and information, as well as Dark Door Spirits, which is not necessarily in Oldsmar, but still really close down the road in Tampa, to do our zip and sip and kind of promote their tasting and tours to add to our roster. And I think that's it from me. Yes.
Well, with marketing being the lifeblood of any successful business, I think we can all agree we're glad she's on our team.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sarah. So bottom line for the citizens of Oldsmar are the partnership that we share. And so as you can see, as Empower has grown and as our reach within Florida and beyond has grown, so has the return to the citizens of Oldsmar, with last year being our best year ever in 6 years, with over $60,000 coming back via the revenue share. So good partner is hard to find, and we're grateful for our partnership with the city. Next slide.
30 people.
Okay. So economic impact, always important. Talk about it every year here. So on average, through informal surveys, we guesstimate about 7 out of 10 of our guests spend money in Oldsmar outside of Empower, in the different restaurants, shops, and other recreational offerings around Oldsmar. We know just through our feedback and the mechanisms that we have with our customer service, all of these entities that you see listed here are regular, get regular visits from our customers who are coming from outside of the area. So we have great relationships with Amici's, with all these different vendors and business owners, where there's a lot of sharing, there's a lot of bartering, there's a lot of collaboration, marketing and otherwise going on. And so we're grateful for that. Obviously, again, not all communities have the ability to work together and to collaborate versus compete. And so collaboration is definitely the key here in Oldsmar. And at the present moment, we're at about our highest in terms of employment, employing over 30 full and part-time workers. We have about a third of that is full-time, and the rest are part-time. Wow. Next slide. This is the slide I was talking about. This is my favorite slide. So over our first 6 years, we've donated through cash, services, gifts, donations. We've donated over $100,000 to local charities and nonprofits. And so that is what Empowered Ventures is all about. It is one of my personal pillars to use Empowered Ventures to uplift our community. And so this is how we do it, through donations for the city, Oldsmar Cares, Upper Tampa Bay, Oldsmar Elementary, Oldsmar Little League, Operation Jack's Village, HEP, youth football, Special Olympics, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They are all part of our operation and part of our partnership, and we make it a point to reach out to them to make sure that they're able to use our facility at little or zero cost. And so that's what it's all about for us. any questions?
Any questions? Wow. Joe, great job.
Thank you.
really
Thank you for
impressive
having us
marketing
here,
numbers.
and thank you for the opportunity to partner with the city. We, like I said, good partners are hard to find, and this has been a success in the first 6 years, and looking forward to many more.
I was there today and the place was packed. You had the people lined up getting ready to go on that zip line, and there were people already on it.
That's right. So, and I would ask council, if you have not been on it, to please consider going on it. We would love to take you for a ride. And in that way, you can really understand what it means to be empowered, find that best version of yourself through adventure.
There you go. Any other, go ahead,
I
Councilman
know
Gannon.
Andrew and I have probably both participated in the leadership activities that I think you
Yeah.
put 12% of activities now.
That's right.
That's really cool. The team building exercises at the Leadership Analysis Retreat that they've always done.
They're fun.
It's fun and maddening and
Yes.
hilarious and builds bonds instantaneously. And it's
Great. Well,
really
I'm glad
cool.
to hear
Highly
it.
recommend.
That was why we founded the company and why we brought it to Oldsmar in 2016.
Yeah.
My experience being, I was in the Army for nearly 10 years, and being a leader in the Army teaches you a lot about leadership. And so founding Empower and creating the experiences we have, while you might be able to zip line in the hills of Georgia or Colorado or the Caribbean, you can't feel empowered there the way you feel here. And so that's what our program is all about.
Thank you for empowering our local community. That's really cool. That list of all $100,000.
It's our number one priority. I tell Sarah all the time, we have to make sure we take care of our backyard because they're the most important people to us.
Just thinking about the kids and the families.
I still remember when polls were going up and the people were complaining they wanted speed bumps. Do you remember that?
I do.
And look at, there's no one's speeding.
Yeah.
No one's speeding.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Any other comments, Vice Mayor? Councilmember Arnett, or Graber?
Nope.
All right. Yep.
Mayor,
Councilmember
would you
Gannon?
entertain a motion to suspend the rules to take item number 20 out of order?
Why not?
Then they don't have to stay till.
Yeah, they can go home and get dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Councilmember Gannon, I need a motion.
I will make that motion to suspend the rules to take agenda item number 20 out of order.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, motion passes. Item number 20, City Manager Felicia Donnelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Approve a revised use agreement with Empowered Venture Operations Tampa Bay LLC. On January 14, 2004, the city and Pinellas County entered into a grant contract with Florida Communities Trust to purchase certain lands within the city of Oldsmar to become part of the Mobley Bayou Wilderness Preserve. On February 2, 2016, the city entered into a lease and management agreement with Empowered Ventures Tampa Bay LLC and a lease and management agreement addendum on May 3, 2018 for the construction, lease, and management of Canopy Tour and Team Building Experiences facilities. In October of 2021, Florida's Community Trust notified the city that the current lease and management agreement with Empower Adventure Operations required modifications to a use agreement to remain consistent with the grant contract. It is important to note that the difference between the former agreement and the new use agreement also increases the revenue share from 5% of the total gross sales for the Canopy Tours to 6%. The agenda item recommends the approval of the new use agreement with Empower Adventures Operations Tampa Bay that meets the requirements as set forth by the Florida's Communities Trust. The agreement has been reviewed by the city attorney. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Great job.
I like Joe already signed it on page 12. That's good.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Keep up the good work. Don't stop.
Thank you all.
All right, have a good night. All right, we need to return to the rules of the day. I need a motion.
Motion to return to the rules of the day.
Second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 12, public hearing. City Attorney Tom Trask, item 12, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and read Just so that you know, this is a public hearing to approve a conditional use for Bank OZK to utilize existing drive-through bank. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. With that in mind, I need to have anybody that's going to make a presentation or speak on this agenda item to stand up, raise their right hand, and be sworn under oath.
Just stand.
Are you going to speak? I need you to raise your right hand and be sworn under. You swear the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth tonight, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay, Tatiana, do you want to make your presentation?
I don't think we need a presentation. Does anybody require a presentation? No, I think you're fine. The applicant?
Okay, we need to have you step in front of that microphone so we can need to ask a couple
Oh,
questions.
that's true, you can't hear.
Okay. We can't hear you when you're standing over there.
If the council would like the presentation, I'm sorry, Tatiana Childress, City of Oldsmar Planning and Redevelopment Director. If the council would like the presentation on this item, I do have a presentation. It's a very straightforward item, so we also have the applicant. We can ask questions to the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, but you want to submit your
I would like to
staffing
submit our
into
staff
evidence,
report into the evidence. Yes, thank you.
and that staff report specifically goes through the requirements of the conditional use and your findings as staff on behalf of the city.
Yes.
Okay. And staff is making a recommendation of approval of this particular application.
Staff makes recommendation of the approval for conditional use to utilize the existing bank with a drive-through and submit the staff report into record.
Okay, don't go anywhere. There may be questions from the council members. Anybody have a question?
I thought it was straightforward. No questions?
No questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mayor. So has been received as evidence, there's no questions. We'll presume that that's the city's presentation, and so you can sit down unless, do you have any, sir, do you need to stand, if you could stand up, please, state your name and what your connection to the application is.
Yes, my name's Scott Murphy. I'm with Bank OZK out of Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm the construction manager.
Okay, do you have any questions for city staff or about the staff report?
No, sir.
Okay, did you have a presentation to make tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, so it's back to the council then.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak on this matter? Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion to approve.
So moved?
A second?
Second.
Any other discussion? No? All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Buckman?
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Conditional use for Bank OZK to utilize existing drive-through bank is approved with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Okay, thank you. So item number 16, public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2022-10, amending Chapter 70, Article 6 of the Code of Ordinances regarding water and sewer rates, fees, and charges. I'm going to go ahead and read that ordinance by title only. Ordinance 2022-10, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar amending Section 70-295 to provide for a 5.5 increase over the next 5 fiscal years to the monthly service charge for reclaimed water and the reclaimed water service availability charge. Amending Section 70-444 to provide for a 5.5% increase over the next 5 fiscal years to the water service monthly service charges and consumption rates. To provide for a 5.5 increase over the next 5 fiscal years to the irrigation or processed water rates. Amending Section 70-445 to provide for a 5.5 increase over the next 5 fiscal years to the sewer service monthly service charges and consumption rates. Amending Section 70-447 to provide for a one-time increase for miscellaneous service charges, including delinquent water turn-off, water turn-on after hours, meter reread, water turn-on and water turn-off. Amending Section 70-450 to provide for a one-time increase to water and sewer connection fees. Amending Section 70-451 to provide for a one-time increase to meter installation fees. Amending Section 70-453 for a one-time increase to the private lift station permit and inspection fees and reinspection fees, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2022-10 by title only. Cindy, did you want to make a presentation on that? No? Or Daniel? No? Okay.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would anybody like to speak on this matter? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any council discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Buckman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nat?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2022-10, amending Chapter 70, Article 6 of the Code of Ordinances regarding water and sewer rates, fees, and charges, passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Okay, item number 14 is a public hearing for the first reading of ordinance 2022-11, rezoning the southern portion of the Oldsmar Flea Market from C3 to C2. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so I need to swear in anyone that's going to speak on this agenda item that has not already been sworn in. Nobody? Okay. I'm going to read the ordinance by title only. Ordinance 2022-11, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, rezoning the south 13.45 acre portion of that certain real property described as parcel number 23, 28, 16, 639, 36, 265, 0010 from C3 Commercial Wholesale and Warehousing District to C2 Commercial General and providing for the effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2022-11 by title only. Tatiana, did you want to make a presentation on this? Okay, can you step to the microphone for me just a minute? I'm going to do this all over again. Okay, so you've made, in the staff, in the agenda package, there is the ordinance itself. You made a presentation at the August 16th, 2022 meeting. And you request for authorization, city attorney to prepare this ordinance for rezoning. Did you want your staff report to become part of this package that was presented at the August 16th meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any questions of Tatiana before she sits down?
No, sir.
No?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. So that you want that August 16, 2022 staffing to be received into the record, correct?
Into the record, yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anybody that'd like to speak on this matter? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Buckman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nat?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2022-11, rezoning the southern portion of the Oldsmar Flea Market from C3 to C2, passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. Item number 15 is adopt resolution 2022-13, amending the stormwater utility management fees. I'll read that by title only. Resolution 2022-13, a resolution of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the city's stormwater management fee in accordance with section 70-356 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, and providing for an effective date hereof. That was the reading of resolution 2022-13 by title only. Daniel, did you have a presentation you want to make on this? No? Cindy?
Cindy Nano, Administrative Services Director. And let's see. Okay, I'm here to talk about the financial considerations of Resolution 2022-13, and that is amending the stormwater utility management fee. Okay, first of all, I wanted to kind of get into the timeline to kind of explain how we got to where we are. December 3rd, 1991, Ordinance 9114 was established the Stormwater Utility Fund. Fees were then established in 1992 at $2 per month per equivalent residential unit, or ERU. 6 years later, in 1998, we increased the rate to $2.50 per ERU per month, and then in 2003, it went up to $3. So you can see it was a very slow increase in the fees. 2010 came along, and an independent rate consultant recommended that we establish 2 tiers for the stormwater utility fee. One would be for the full service, and there would be a 50-cent discount for the reduced service, which means certain neighborhoods and business parks, they provided stormwater pond maintenance, so the city did not have to do that. So we gave them a slight discount. In 2010, we raised the full service rate up to $4. 2014, we did another increase up to $5 per ERU. 2019, 5 years later, we increased it up to $6, which gets us to where we are today. When pulling the budget together, it became apparent that we needed to do something to fund the stormwater operations and then provide funding for the capital. So, Okay, as we went through in the capital budget work session and also the operating budget work session, you can see, that maybe you can't see, it's kind of small, but the 6-year plan for the stormwater fund is about $9 million. 4.1 of that is in the next fiscal year. Fortunately, we have funding for some of the projects, especially the Douglas Road, thanks to the American Rescue Plan Act funding. The rest of the years, we may receive some grant funding, but there's also about $4.9 million in years 2 through 6. So there's a lot coming up that we'll have to address. Looking at the budget, this is from our operating budget, which was presented at the work session on August 3rd. You can see that there's $2.15 million that we are planning to use for the Douglas Road project, and that's from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. Stormwater revenue fees are projected at $1.2 million. Miscellaneous revenue at $15,000. And then finally, we're going to use fund reserves of about $1.471 million. The fund reserves mostly come from money that we've saved up over time for capital projects as well as some remaining ARPA revenues. On the expense side, we have personal services of $320,000, operating expenses of $230,000, capital outlay of the $4.1 million, as I mentioned previously, and debt service of almost $148,000 a year. That leaves us with about $72,000 to put back into the fund reserves for the year. All right, taking a little bit deeper dive into the operating margin for the Stormwater Utility Fund, the annual operating revenue, which would be the stormwater fees and then some miscellaneous revenue, about $1.235 million, less the operating expenses, almost $700,000, leaves you with $537,000 left over to put in our savings for future capital projects and the current capital projects. Just put it back in perspective, the capital commitments that we have coming up in the next 5 years, from 24 to 28, total about $4.9 million. Fortunately, we do have funding, or we are expecting funding for some of those projects, so the city will not have to bear the full burden of that, but we do need to be prepared to fund the city's share of that. Okay, here's some key points that I kind of wanted to point out. The system currently operates at a near break-even point, so we don't have a whole lot of leeway either, one way or the other. It's a very slim margin. With our proximity to the Tampa Bay and then our low elevation, it's critical that we have the stormwater resources in place to help provide for the resiliency of the city. That was required to fund the stormwater improvements in Harbor Palms, and that's for phases 1 and 2. The annual debt service is about $148,000 a year. The American Rescue Plan Act provided some funding that we needed for some of the fiscal year 23 capital projects, specifically Douglas Road, which offset some of the revenue deficiencies. Rate adjustment is necessary to help fund future essential operations as well as the capital cost. And then the recommended $2 per month per equivalent residential unit will generate about $314,000 a year. And then the last thing I wanted to point out was, the first thing people ask is how does this compare to other municipalities? As you can see, this is from actually Pinellas County. They published this, I think, in April 22. So some of the rates may have increased by now. But as you can see, Oldsmar is behind. And even in raising it up to $8 per month per ERU, we will still be below some of the other municipalities. So that's something that we will continue to monitor and possibly adjust in future budgets. So, okay, any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. That was very helpful, Cindy.
Oh,
I
good.
appreciate the 30-year history of the rate. That was really interesting. I had no idea that the sort of reaction time was a little slow.
Very slow.
That slow.
Thank you for hanging in there, Cindy, with us tonight. Thank you for hanging out.
You're welcome.
All right. I need a motion to approve.
Was the public given the opportunity to speak?
It's not what's this? This is not a public hearing, is it?
No, but it is.
Okay, sure.
My suggestion is you do it
Okay.
because it is a rate study,
You got it.
rate increase.
I'm going to open up the public hearing. Would anybody like to speak on this matter? Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. No problem. I need a motion.
Moved?
I have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Buckman?
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Resolution 2022-13, amending stormwater utility management fees, is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. Last thing under city attorney is consider the draft revision of the council's rules of procedure. You remember that back in June that we had a work session on this, and I was given direction to take the council rules of procedure and add in the language from the particular cities that we have been using as examples. I think that we have done that here. We provide it to you in strike it underlined format. After pulling all those together based upon the direction that I was given, there were a couple of things that the 3 charter officials are suggesting that you may want to take a look at. These are things that I was not directed to do, but we think are important to address. And those are listed in the memo that is on page 162 of your packet. And that's section 2, regular meetings, add a provision for canceling meetings due to emergency at the direction of the mayor or the city manager. Also in that same section, add a provision for canceling meetings due to a holiday, and that we voted on at a regular council meeting. Section 4A, special meetings, remove the requirement C for the city clerk to make phone calls. The current agenda subscribers do not provide phone numbers, so this requirement is difficult. And lastly, under orderly meetings, section 2, remove G, which contradicts the spirit of the community engagement and feedback. That was kind of the direction that the council has been going. So this has come back to you for consideration and direction. And then once, if this is how you want it to read, then it will come back to you in the form of a resolution for approval.
Okay.
So
I'm going to open up discussion. Does anybody would like to start? Have any suggestions or changes? Go ahead, Councilmember Graber. You want to go first?
Yeah, and in the orderly meeting section, sub E, that's where subsection G is there, and I agreed with removing that. Subsection F and subsection J. And Tom, this may be a question for you, but this doesn't specifically say open forum is included in this, so I took it to mean that the open forum was included in this. And so just in doing research, I know there's a couple of cases about it, but the statute doesn't make any reference to making personal attacks or insults. And so subparagraph F, though criticism of the mayor or council members as to the execution of their official duties when such criticism does not otherwise violate these rules shall not be deemed to be a personal attack or insult. But my understanding of that is that the mayor would be, since he's the person who controls the meeting, would be the one to determine if it's a personal attack. And I think my issue is, if I say, Councilmember Knapp, you're the greatest human being that's ever existed, ever. That would be allowed, right? That's a personal statement, right? But that would be allowed. I couldn't say, you're the worst human being in the history of the world, because that would be a personal attack. So you can't have one and not the other. That's my understanding. And it's my understanding that the statute doesn't say anything about personal attack. It has a lot more in there. You can call for decorum. You can call for orderly rules. You can't raise a ruckus, you can't be overly repetitive. You can't. It doesn't say anything about personal attack, so I don't like that being in there. Speaking on a subject that is clearly outside the purview of matters before council for consideration, the open forum, you can speak about whatever you want. At least that's my understanding. You have to do it in an orderly manner. But you can speak about something that isn't under consideration. If Suda comes to the public forum, she wants to talk about Moana Jr., and there's nothing about Moana Jr. on the agenda, she's allowed to speak about it. So it's those restrictions that I didn't like. And I know in the last meeting, Mayor Saraki, you brought up that all comments should be directed to you as the mayor. They're addressing the body. And so I didn't like that aspect either. I know it's not written in here, but I just wanted to make sure that I spoke on that. Asking for decorum, even making rules for decorum, okay. Personal attacks, only directing comments to the mayor. If Councilmember Gannon does something nice for somebody, which she's done in the past, or if the women's club comes out and somebody speaks from the women's club, and addresses Katie, the spirit of what you said is, no, you can't. Forgive me, Councilmember Cannon. You have to address me, I'm the mayor. And so I didn't, and I know, like I said, we're not codifying that, but just as something else that I noticed when you gave the introduction to the open forum at the last meeting. So my recommendation, and I know that please more discussion, sub F, sub G, sub J would be removed. And that is all I had. Thank you.
So you're saying remove G, what was it, and J?
Under sub-paragraph, if you go to page 165 of 402, it's E, orderly meetings, and then the subs of E, orderly meetings, F, G, and J.
Just this one and this one.
Okay, just the,
And that one over there.
okay. All right, thank you, Councilmember Graber. Vice Mayor, you have anything you'd like to comment on, please?
Councilmember Graber took a couple of mine, but the couple things that I saw here, one, looking at the work sessions, and on, this is page 163 of 402, number 3. It states here that, or maybe I'm in the wrong section, I'm sorry, emergency meetings, section B. Any two members of the council may at any time call an emergency council meeting by signing a written notice stating the time and place of the meeting and subjects to be considered. How are two council members getting together to call a meeting without violating sunshine law?
So it'd be two members that would be either calling the city clerk or calling the city manager and saying, I'd like a meeting on this, and then there's a second one that calls and says, I'd like a meeting on this. That's how it's done.
So it's randomized,
Yes.
essentially,
Yes.
right? They
I
both
agree.
saw the same issue, they want to bring it up, they won't put a meeting together. Okay. The other thing was on the agendas, and I think I know I'm a little sensitive
What
to this.
page you on?
I'm on page 163, number 1, actually, something that was not added in the current rules. You know, I had time to discuss this with Felicia today, and, you know, going into Labor Day weekend with a 402-page packet can be challenging. And I've asked the city manager to explore options to push back and get to maybe a Thursday release of the agenda packets or maybe a Wednesday release, and she's mentioned that she will work on that, and she's got some ideas on that. So it might be something we have to change at a later date, but I think releasing this on Friday afternoon, and I understand the stress that it puts on staff and everything else, I think we just need to explore ways that we can have this in a more timely fashion than Friday before the meeting when you've got there's a 3-day weekend. So that's one thing that I'd like to see change maybe in the future once we test out a few things that I've spoken to the city manager about. Secondly, under E, orderly meetings on number 1, I know it's in the charter. I don't know if we need to place it here, but going through orderly meetings in the sub-paragraphs, it starts talking about the presiding officer, and it says the mayor shall be the presiding officer. And I know we have an order in our charter, if you're not available and you're not here, do we need to put that here, or does that need to change that language a little bit?
We could definitely change that to address that issue. And here's where we need to do it, obviously, because this is adopted by resolution, and the charter would require a referendum.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we wanted to rework that language,
I think we just need to define the presiding officer per the charter, and then everything should say the presiding officer of the meeting, if that's the way. I'm not an attorney.
Anything else, Vice Mayor?
I think that is all I had on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Knapp?
Sure, I've got a couple of things. I'm just continuing to peruse this to make sure I'm not missing anything before I bring up the couple of items that I'd like to address. I guess just first as a question, do we or should we have a separate section having anything more explicitly clear as far as the rules for open forum as a separate section versus kind of the more general orderly meetings, how to behave in essence, or proper behavior during the meetings? So that just posing that question, and the reason why I asked that is for a couple of things that I would like the council to discuss and consider. One being that instead of open forum being purely the opportunity for the council to address or excuse me, for the citizens to address the council, to have the opportunity for any answers that are easy to and quick to provide, since somebody may have invested their time to come sit through the first few minutes of the meeting, for whether it's addressed to an individual or better answered by staff. That would be the first thing. And then the second one that I would like to consider, because I think everybody would like to respect each other's time, is to consider not allowing the ability to yield one's time to someone else during open forum. You get 5 minutes as an individual or as a group, and that's all you get. Not being able to pass it and suddenly accumulate what could amount to a half hour, hour, or more by any single individual or group. So those are my two suggestions of things to consider.
Okay. You have any other cities that do that, Tom? Those particular two items?
So answering questions, yes, I've seen in some of the cities that I represent, specifically Tarpon Springs, for example, the mayor would allow the entire open forum to be completed. And then once the people sit down, then he would, ask city staff, either the city manager, to call the person, or if it was a quick answer thing, have staff members step up and answer the question. But it would not be this back and forth.
I'm not suggesting a back and forth, more like you get your 5 minutes, and if you ever have questions that you're desiring to have answered during that time, at the conclusion of your opportunity of speaking, we can provide an answer, but not necessarily more so to be a back and forth. That was kind of what I was envisioning.
Okay.
Just any question or questions and a response, obviously doing our best to limit it here so that we're not dragging things out.
So the mayor can do that. He can allow that question to be answered. It's your call. Unless there's a council member that says, Mayor, can we address that, after they sit down? Obviously, you're going to do that anyhow. But it's usually the mayor has that call.
I personally like the idea of getting open forum done with and then answering the questions after.
Yeah, that's going to be the smoothest way that it's going to happen.
Right.
And that, what it really boils down to is allowing the person to have the whole entire 5 minutes of their time, and then you're not eating it up with a long response, and then they can't get to something else. So let them finish completely, and then,
Be on that one.
you don't necessarily need to include that in the rules. I mean, if you want to, that's not in the Tarpon Springs rules either, but it was just a practice.
Yeah, start doing it.
So,
I'd like to at least get that far as considering it a practice to be able to respond to something that
I like it.
may be resolved here versus even having to go and send an email later or make a phone call.
I like it. Anything else?
No, just that other one with the consideration of the yielding of time.
Okay. Councilmember Gannon.
Thank you, Mayor. As to the items on the cover memo, I think item 1, the provision for canceling meetings due to emergency, I didn't have any language necessarily different from exactly that to propose, but I was fine with that. I was similarly okay with the provision mentioned in number 2 for canceling meetings due to a holiday, and that it should be voted on a regular council meeting. Totally fine. Again, the language, I don't think it needs to be any different than that. I saw in section 4A that change had been made. I was fine with how that was worded. And number 4, section 2, subsection G, which was already mentioned by Councilmember Graber, I think that's fine to omit. I don't have a problem with omitting subsection J. I guess when I read that, speaking on a subject matter that's clearly outside of the purview of matters before council for consideration, I was thinking more like, I don't know, something really crazy and outlandish, but I see your point.
Right.
Yeah, you can come and talk about anything. But yes to omitting G. F, I understand Councilmember Graber's point. I also understand that criticisms should not necessarily be hurled at the mayor simply by virtue of the position. So I get that. I don't know if we're talking about it now, but I didn't have any problem with the other parts of the announcement that was made prior to last week's meeting, or last meeting. I have no problem with Councilmember Knapp's suggestions regarding open forum, answering questions at the end, if that answer is available to staff or what have you, or if the answer is readily providable. And then I also have no problem with creating a limitation on yielding time to others. I can see how that could get out of hand and a little wily if it's not clear. So those are my thoughts. I do think the personal attacks part, it is covered a bit under subsection B. And I do think that section 3, which says the presiding officer shall rule out of order any persons violating these provisions, I think that kind of gives the presiding officer, whether it be the mayor or the vice mayor, what have you, the necessary discretion to call a point of order according to parliamentary procedures. So I think I'm okay with that too.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. So Councilmember Graver, I want to answer your question about why I did that last meeting. I think it's important that all you know, I didn't like the fact that certain citizens were saying negative feedback about the council members and city staff, and that really bothers me.
Right.
As a new mayor, I'm really trying to build a team here, so I wanted to try to stop that. I didn't feel like it needed to be a council rule of procedure. I just wanted to make it clear that we all work together as a team. We're trying to make our city successful, and that was it. I did it once. I had to get it off my chest.
Sure.
So I wanted to explain that to you.
Yeah, it was just a couple of things that were specifically mentioned that I thought were important to address, because I went back and watched it, and I'm like, what exactly was the mayor saying? So I just wanted to make sure I brought it up. But it was also in connection with this, especially with the personal attacks. Like I can't get there. If you're cursing, you're doing other things you're not supposed to do. That's different than just saying I don't like you. Like that's technically a personal attack, and then who's the arbiter of what a personal attack is? And you start inflicting on other rights. I don't know. So the easiest thing to do is take it out, at least in my opinion.
I was just trying to divert the negativity to
for sure.
me, towards me. I just wanted the people to come to me. And, I didn't know what was going to happen. I really didn't. I didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
And I want you to know that I did consult Tom, before I did anything. I want to make sure you guys know that.
Okay.
As far as the rules of council procedures, I've read everything. Personally, I am just glad we're doing this. I've been on council for 8 years, and we've never even talked about this. I think we're in the right direction with the changes that all of us have made, and I'm ready to move forward. Any other comments? Anything else?
Mayor?
Yep.
One other thing, as it kind of relates to not being able to yield time during open forum, we don't currently, and forgive me if I'm missing it, prescribe a time limit. And what I like is what you've been doing as far as allowing citizens to address individual agenda items during that agenda item. Is there any current rules there that we're limiting folks? Because I like potentially not limiting it there, so that if you want to let it all out about some specific issue, save it right in that moment.
Well, I noticed.
I don't know what we have. Are we running the timer?
I heard you,
You are,
Ann
okay.
clicked the timer. I heard her click it when we were doing it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna suggest this. I actually like the 5-minute limits.
Okay.
Because,
Extend it.
yeah, because, and we can extend it, like
discretion,
Jerry, for God's sakes.
Well, what I'm saying is, as far as open forum, but if you're gonna have people that had the opportunity to kind of come up during agenda item 2, and it could have come up in theory more than once, which maybe some folks did.
Which people did
Losing track.
tonight.
Right.
We're just kind of like limited with.
So let's
I don't mind that. I'm just saying is if we want to leave it to where it's kind of, you're running the show, I'm
Yeah,
cool with that.
I like
'Cause I
Ann.
like the additional participation peppered in.
Yeah, I think it's important. especially what's been going on in the community. It's important that people get their opportunity to speak. And I do like, Ann, you keeping the time. I do like you keeping the 5-minute.
For reference.
And then if it goes off, then I'll make a decision there. Okay. Anything else? Do we need a motion for that, Tom, or we're just?
No, I've got the direction, so I'll go
Okay.
ahead and make the changes, and we'll bring it back to you in a resolution form for consideration and adoption.
All right, wonderful. We're on to item 17, and this is City Manager Felicia Donnelly.
Item number 17 is a public hearing to adopt resolution 2022-14, establishing a tentative millage rate of 4.05 mils for fiscal year 22-23. On July 19th, 2022, the City Council authorized the city manager to complete the certification of taxable value indicating a proposed millage rate of 4.05 mils to the Pinellas County Property Appraiser. In August, the property appraiser mailed the truth and millage trim notices to all property owners advising them of the city's proposed millage rate for fiscal year 2022-23. The proposed millage rate is equal to the previous year, which is also 4.05 mils. I'll read the recommended motion in its entirety. Resolution 2022-14, a resolution of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, setting the tentative millage levy for the City of Oldsmar for the year beginning October 1, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023. Whereas the City Council of the City of Oldsmar has reviewed the proposed appropriations for the City of Oldsmar for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023. And whereas in accordance with law, the Pinellas County Property Appraiser has certified to the City of Oldsmar a rolled back millage rate of 3.7011 mils, and whereas the proposed millage rate is greater than the rolled back rate by 9.43%, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, in session duly and regularly assembled as follows. Section 1, that the City of Council of the City of Oldsmar hereby sets the millage rate for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023 at 4.05 mils, that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon adoption.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. I am going to open up the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this issue? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? Oh, I need a motion first, sorry. Motion first. Any motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor signify by, oh, now discussion. It's getting late. Before roll call, I have something I want to say. Felicia, thank you for not raising our taxes. You and I have talked about this in length. Thank you so much for you and your city staff, all the great work you've done. Thank you.
Tightening the belt.
Yep, roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Buckman?
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Resolution 2022-14, establishing a tentative millage rate of 4.05 mils for fiscal year 2022-23 is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item 18 is,
Item number 18 is a public hearing to adopt resolution 2022-15, establishing a tentative budget for fiscal year 2022-23. The proposed budget document was presented to City Council on Monday, July 18th, 2022. The budget work session was held on Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. Florida statutes require a separate vote by the City Council for adoption of the tentative budget and a tentative millage rate, and the millage rate vote must occur first. Subsequent to the adoption of the tentative budget, a second public hearing must be conducted prior to the adoption of the final budget. The second public hearing for final adoption of the millage rate and budget is scheduled for Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. I will read the resolution in its entirety. Resolution 2022-15, a resolution of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, adopting the tentative budget appropriations for the City of Oldsmar for the year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023. Whereas the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida has reviewed the proposed appropriations for the City of Oldsmar for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023, and now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, in session duly and regularly assembled as follows. Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida does hereby tentatively establish the appropriations for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023 as follows. There's an attached scheduled pages 1 through 8. The general fund is $17,115,520. Public Safety Impact Fund, $1,379,500. Parkland Dedication Fund, $15,300. Multimodal Impact Fund, $15,250. Community Redevelopment Agency Fund, $873,900. Debt Service Veterans Memorial Park, $169,500. Debt Service Harbor Palms, $380,295. Capital Improvement Fund, $6,090,000. Water and Sewer Operating Fund, $13,232,050. Water and Sewer Impact Fund, $92,500. Stormwater Utility Fund, $4,857,500. Solid Waste Fund, $3,149,600. The total budget appropriations is $47,370,420. Section 2, that all purchase orders for materials and services that remain open at the year end of fiscal year 21-22 are to become supplemental appropriations in the respective departmental accounts in the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, unless canceled. Section 3, that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon adoption.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion to approve.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
Any other council discussion? Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Graber?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Buckman?
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Resolution 2022-15, establishing a tentative budget for fiscal year 2022-23 is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item 19.
Item number 19, annual updates to the Local Mitigation Strategy and Community Rating System Program for Public Information, PPI. The City of Oldsmar has participated in the Community Rating System Program since 1992, which is a point system program that rewards communities for floodplain management activities that exceed the minimum National Flood Insurance Program's NFIP standards, thus reducing flood insurance premiums for its citizens. Oldsmar is currently a Class 6 community, which translates into a 20% reduction in flood insurance premiums for properties within the special flood hazard area and a 10% reduction for properties outside of that area. To receive credits, each municipality must create and maintain their own floodplain management plan or participate in a multi-jurisdictional plan. The LMS strategy, the local mitigation strategy, was developed cooperatively with representatives of Pinellas County and its 24 municipalities, and therefore qualifies for credit as a multi-jurisdictional floodplain management plan under the National Flood Insurance Program's Community Rating System, Activity 510, Floodplain Management Planning. The LMS is a unified, coordinated effort to develop local initiatives to mitigate for future property damage and possible loss of life from severe storms and flooding. Participants, including city staff, meet regularly to discuss the LMS, update it, revise, and prioritize local projects. Emergency operation, such as emergency operation center purchases, hardening of public infrastructure, drainage improvement projects, and educational outreach. Portions of the LMS are updated annually with mitigation project accomplishments or new projects to be added. Additionally, every 5 years, the entire LMS goes through a major update with annual changes: membership, goals and objectives, programs, funding sources, critical facilities. The most recent 5-year LMS update was adopted by Council on September 3rd, 2020. To continue to receive the credit under the CRS Activity 510, an annual progress report must be submitted as part of the required documentation during the annual CRS recertification process. This memo and its attachments are the City of Oldsmar's 2022 LMS progress report for distribution to Tampa Bay area media and for availability to the public at Oldsmar City Hall, 100 State Street West, as well as a notice posted on the city's website and social media. The capital improvement plan for FY 2020 to 2026 is considered part of this LMS annual report. City Council received the proposed CIP at its work session earlier this year. The CIP is included in the proposed and final annual budgets. These documents are available by contacting the city clerk, Ann A. Nixon at myoldsmar.com, 813-749-1115, or at 100 State Street West, Oldsmar, Florida. This agenda item also formalizes the submission and filing of the Pinellas County Multi-Jurisdictional Community Rating System Annual Report for Program for Public Information as required as part of the City of Oldsmar participation in the NFIP Community Rating System. Activity 510 Floodplain Management Planning. The annual PPI report submitted to the council is also required under CRS activity to maintain the current CRS rating of 6 and to continue to participate in the program. During the City of Oldsmar annual CRS recertification, which typically takes place in March of each year, our community must submit proof that the PPI is received and filed into record. The floodplain management for public information is a step-by-step coordinated approach to flood hazard outreach. The purpose in developing a multi-jurisdictional PPI is to improve communication with citizens and to provide information about flood hazards, flood safety, flood insurance, and ways to protect your property. The city's participation in these programs and associated CRS program reporting requirements to maintain the current Class 6 are essential for the residents, resulting in significant savings to those who purchase flood insurance. The LMS and PPI annual reports are on file at the city's clerk's office at 100 State Street West, Oldsmar, Florida. To request a copy, you can contact the city clerk at 813-749-1115 or stop by during the office of business hours. The recommended motion is to receive and file the annual reports and updates to Pinellas County's local mitigation strategy and the county's community rating system program for public information. Staff recommends receive and filing.
Thank you for reading all that.
Encore.
That was quite long. And as you can see on the other pages, city staff's doing a great job. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I love seeing them turn from like current to completed, red to blue. Red
That's
to blue,
right.
Red to blue.
Any other discussion
Really,
over
really
there?
substantial progress. Great
All right,
job.
all
Great
right.
job, staff.
Thank you, everyone. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 21, city manager.
Approve a memorandum of understanding with Forward Pinellas for a grant application for safe streets and roads for all. On May 17, 2022, the City Council adopted a council priority of enhancing roadway safety for all modalities, including safe routes to school. Further, the City Council adopted Resolution 2022-09 supporting Safe Streets Pinellas, a Vision Zero effort to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries on the Pinellas Transportation Network. In support of this priority and resolution, city staff coordinated with Forward Pinellas staff to pursue funding opportunities in order to complete a mobility study for the area of the city south of State Road 580. Forward Pinellas staff recommended that the city jointly apply for Safe Streets and Roads for All. It's called a SS4A from the Federal Department of Transportation. The bipartisan infrastructure law established new Safe Streets and Roads for All discretionary program with $5 billion in appropriated funds over the next 5 years. This program funds initiatives to prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. By jointly applying for this grant, the city improves its odds of receiving the grant. In order to move forward with the application, the city must commit to funding 20% of the funding and enter into the attached memorandum of understanding. If the grant is awarded, a consultant will review the pedestrian experience in the downtown area and recommend improvements that the city may pursue. The goal is to continue to improve safety for all modalities. City staff has received letters of support from the Women's Club of Oldsmar, the Upper Tampa Bay Education Foundation, Oldsmar Historical Society, Oldsmar Friends of the Arts, and the Holiday Sharing Fund. Staff recommends approval.
Wonderful. I do have one resident that, James, you would like to speak on this item? Come on up.
I had spoke 2 months ago about how unsafe it is to run or bike in Oldsmar. So a regular attorney said you didn't do all of your homework. So I went to Gainesville and I copied the Florida statutes. The city of Oldsmar can get a lawsuit. Even if you start proceeding over here on this site, if somebody gets killed in the city, like if my son gets killed, I can go to the city and ask, do you have a Florida statute limit? And I'm going to read this real quick for you. Bike lane regulations overview, providing a safe, enjoyable experience. 1A, any right-of-way is to be open and free. B, be accessible at all times. 2, exclusions provisions, no parking. B, no use of lane for any functions within city. 3, curbside or pickup. A, no garbage cans or debris to be placed anywhere in bike lanes at any time. B, contractor will place full or empty cans on lawn or curb, not into bike lanes. 4, emergency vehicle passage. A standard 2-lane road refuse truck uses bike lane picking up garbage, allowing emergency vehicles to pass. B, regular traffic passes freely on left side, or if refuse truck picking up larger object needs 2 lanes to complete task at hand. Bike lanes open and free 24-hour total access, no exceptions. Now, I witnessed where Oldsmar Fire Department had 2 calls, and Safety Harbor came down with their big ladder truck on Lafayette. They jumped that high curb, and the fire guy driving it said that if the truck is damaged, the city will pay for it, okay? I think that we should table this until the Florida city, which I gave to the city clerk, this copy here, that it gets put on record so that if somebody does come after the city and says, my child was hit in a bike lane, do you have these rules and regulations on your city charter? I propose that these get put in before you approve that safe thing, because they can come back at you and say, what about the girl during the Oldsmar event? I granted that she wasn't in a cross zone, but put these on the agenda first, get these into the city, adopt these, and then go forward with this resolution that you have before you. Because if they come back and say, do you have any charters or amendments, and you don't, then you're going to have to explain yourself. That's
Okay,
my resolution for the September 20th meeting.
thank you.
Thank you for hearing me.
You got it. Thank you, James. Tom, is that something we need to do?
This is just an application and a memorandum of understanding for the grant itself. So that is a separate issue.
That's a separate issue. That's what I
Right.
thought.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you again, James. All right, I'm going to need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Any other discussion on this? Anybody like to speak?
I'm really excited about this because, so, I've been all over the whole Safe Routes to School thing. I
Yes.
actually attended the webinar for the application process, August 24th, I think it was. It's an intensely complicated web, and that's for the Florida program, right? So, but Safe Routes to School is just one part of a national effort, right? And so you've got a federal grant for safe streets and roads for all, and the opportunity for a pool of funding would, as we've seen from ARPA, thank you, ARPA, can make a big difference. The application process and the ability to kind of partner with Forward Pinellas to get it done is a big deal. Increases our odds, decreases the burden on our staff to some extent. But I think it's really important. The more support we can get, I've loved seeing the names of all of the groups that have written letters of support. That was so cool. Because I do think the community is 100% behind this council priority. This is
Actually, yes.
really great.
Councilmember Knapp?
Just a real quick note, I think it's great to get out and stay ahead of the curve on trying to get this assistance. I still would like to see whatever information Mr. Hummel provided so that we can make sure we're covered on that front. But as we just kind of noted, separate issue, but don't want to forget about that either, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I agree with Councilmember Knapp. Wow, long
You
day.
can say Andrew, it's fine.
I can say Andrew, that's fine. I'm really excited about this. Thank you.
Councilmember Graber?
I served on the Citizens Advisory Committee for Fort Pinellas, and so I love when they present stuff. I had an interesting background with them, so I'm completely in favor of this. I'm excited about it.
Wonderful. I just have one comment. Katie, I'm just glad that you're involved and that you're going to the meetings and being involved in the application process. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to not only me, but I would speak for the city and the council. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Yeah,
Means
the
a lot.
next the next Fort Pinellas School Transportation Safety Committee, STSC meeting is October 5th, so in the morning.
Oh, okay.
I'll be back with more information in October.
Wonderful. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 22.
Item number 22, approve the USA BMX National Championship Series event agreement with the American Bicycle Association to host USA BMX Gator Nationals October 7th through 9th, 2022. This item recommends the consideration of the approval of the agreement between the City of Oldsmar and the American Bicycle Association to host USA BMX Gator Nationals October 7th through 9th at the Oldsmar Sports Complex. The city hosted the Gator Nationals from 2003 through 2019 and is now prepared to begin hosting again in 2022 following the renovation of the starting hills. As anticipated, there'll be approximately 1,000 participants with an attendance of approximately 3,500 spectators traveling both nationally and internationally over the course of the weekend. This agreement has been reviewed by the city attorney. Staff recommends approval.
This is so exciting. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I wanted to make the motion. I can't. Any other
Pass the
discussion?
gavel.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I've got some questions.
Sure.
about this. You know, the first thing, looking at the budgetary impact, 17,000 for toilets, EMS, security. There's a lot more things on that exhibit too, that seem like there's a lot more cost that's gonna be involved. Is that both hard and soft numbers, employee time, staff time, everything else that we're putting into that? And then the other question I had was, I was kind of shocked when I read this. Under 7, defaults and remedies. In the event the city underdelivers for whatever reason, it's so broad, they can forfeit all payments to us. Now, in the spirit of this, I know we had a prior relationship with them when the BMX track was open and everything else, but that seems very risky to have that 7.1 in there and them saying, hey, 10 of the toilets didn't work the whole time, so you underperformed. There's no definition of those reasons. There's no performance metrics tied to some of the things on there. And I'm just concerned about that clause coming back to bite us.
Tommy, you have any comments on that?
So Chip can step up, but the BMX, USA BMX was not interested in changing this agreement. It was very difficult to go
Take it
through
or
this
leave it.
process. It was kind of like take it or leave it. You know, we can always go back to them and say, you know, the council is not interested in approving this unless this provision is changed. But it's been, they have not moved on the language of the BMX contract.
I have a couple questions.
I just, when I'm looking at it, going
Almost
back,
finished.
just thinking about examples, right? It says, place directional signs along the road. Well, the sign wasn't big enough, so you underperformed. You didn't put enough signs, you didn't perform. There's no measurement to the performance of the city's responsibilities. And so I think there needs to be more definition in Exhibit 2 saying we want X number of signs. We want provide security as needed. What is as needed? It's very, very broad here. And I get it, we're in a tight spot. Either we approve this or we got nothing and we spent $3 million for nothing, right? I get that. But at the same time, I think this is very risky and we've gotten this BMX track that we've put up, repaid the grant money for to fix it, when are the citizens gonna see the money again?
I don't think it's ever changed, has it, Tom? This contract has always been the same.
I can't tell you whether it has been exactly the same, but it's been substantially similar. So,
Okay. Councilmember Gannon?
I actually have a couple of questions to the extent that the city manager can answer them. How many tracks are there, the Supercross tracks like this, where USA BMX can host part of the national championship series? Like,
There, at last count that I'm aware of, there were 330 tracks.
okay, that's what I.
You don't necessarily have to be a supercross track to host
Okay.
a national event. And I think there's about a dozen national events available a year to 330 tracks that can bid on that opportunity.
Okay, so we are not necessarily in a unique position to say, well, then you can't come here.
No.
The contract, up above section 7.1 defaults and remedies, right under the logo on page 285, it says the city would receive a facility rental fee of $3,000. So if we defaulted, we wouldn't get $3,000?
That's correct.
Okay, so do you have any sense of whether or not this contract is specifically unique to Oldsmar, or is this the same contract that USA BMX uses for most of these types of events?
I understand that they use this for all of their events.
I would assume so. So I don't get the sense that BMX was intended to render a profit similar to any of our parks. I don't see them as a profit-making venue. What would be the consequence, however, if USA BMX walked away? Like, what would be the consequence to our local riders if we do not have USA BMX involved?
I can't answer that specifically, but it would, speculatively, a lot of our younger riders participate because there's a national here. It brings a lot of notoriety to the sport because we host national events.
Right.
So it could, by not hosting a national event, it could result in less riderships at a local level.
Because they're not necessarily earning points, like accreditation, those points towards their skills, if they're not at sanctioned events.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any idea? I remember we talked about it a while back, and Barry Burton mentioned it, because I know that the county actually pays our entry fee, our bid fee, if you will. Like, it's kind of like getting the Super Bowl, right? You pay them to come here, right? So how much does the county pay? Do you know?
The county renders $25,000
That's what I
directly to USA BMX so that we host the event.
Okay, so that's not part of this budgetary impact here. They write that check directly.
That's correct.
Okay, so out of our expenses of 17, and maybe some unincorporated soft costs, compare that to me for what's the economic impact? I know we talked about this. I don't know if you have that, but we talked about it when we did the tour briefly, when we reopened it.
I did bring the last economic impact that we had.
Because that's what Mayor Beaverland mentioned when he came up, is the economic impact that these events have on Oldsmar.
So the last economic impact statement that I have from the last Gators estimated a total number of room nights at 8,304 for the event. And then, so they have formulas that quantify what an estimated economic impact. So from Gators, they estimated that that economic impact to us was $3,396 and $234.
Okay, so that's $3.4 million in economic impact from one Gator Nationals.
Correct.
Then I am not concerned at the potential of losing out on 3,000
Any other questions?
23,000.
or 23,000.
Councilmember Knapp,
Right.
you got anything?
Yeah, what she said.
Okay,
I'm good.
all right. Councilmember Graber, anything else?
Absolutely not.
All right. We have a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 23.
Item number 23, approve advanced life support first responder agreement with Pinellas County Emergency Medical Services Authority. The Pinellas County EMS Authority is a special district created for the purpose of providing emergency medical services throughout Pinellas County. The Pinellas County EMS Authority has determined that a single-tier, all advanced life support EMS system with a first responder component and a transport component is the best interest of public safety, health, and welfare. Pinellas County EMS Authority is contracted with various municipalities and independent special fire districts in the county to provide first responder services. The transport component was separately contracted with a private transport service. The current agreement expires on September 30th, 2024. Early adjustments to the agreement are proposed while maintaining the current expiration to address operational considerations identified in the countywide EMS pandemic response, as well as additional funding items. The proposed agreement is similar to the current agreement with the following summary of significant changes. Section 408D, Condition 3M, added language reflecting the current practice of contractors with rescue units transporting from EMS incidents to area hospitals. Rescue 54 is considered a rescue unit by agreement definitions found in Section 201. Section 701D, Rescue Unit Transport Compensation. Added paragraph, authority shall reimburse contractor monthly in arrears for transport by the rescue units that comply with the medical operations manual transport protocol at a rate of $100 per transport. Rescue unit transports that do not comply with the medical operations manual transport protocol shall not be reimbursable. Section 701E, unit hours, added paragraph. Authority may purchase unit hours to staff additional rescue units to transport patients at the authority's discretion through its executive director. The authority shall reimburse the contractor for its actual cost of salary and benefits up to $75 per hour for each crew member of a two-person crew, paramedic, medic, or medic EMT. For overtime or backfill costs for hours that are actually performed and pre-approved in writing by the authority. Such additional units or unit hours may be used routinely, episodically, or during peak demand periods to maintain the level of service and response times for ambulance services. Personnel from different contractors may be paired to place additional rescue units in service. Section 702E, reimbursements for participation in countywide advanced practice paramedic medical training. Added a paragraph related reimbursement of costs to the contractor for actual cost of salary and benefits up to $75 per hour for overtime or backfill costs for the contractor's advanced practice paramedics to attend and participate in countywide medical training for special operations. Appendix A, ALS First Responder Profile, FY 22-23, it's $515, which includes funding of a 75% FTE of EMS coordinator and 75% of funding costs for replacement of the EMS coordinator vehicle up to $37,500. The proposed agreement will expire on September 30th, 2024 with the option of extension to September 30th, 2029. This agreement has been reviewed by legal counsel and staff recommends approval.
Okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion on this item?
Okay with you, Chief?
Good.
Thanks for staying.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
Chief,
staying.
thanks. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 25.
Approve the special event application fee.
Oh, I'm sorry, 24.
24. Approve the special event application fee waiver request for Oldsmar Friends of the Art presentation of Moana Jr. to be held on October 15th, 2022. The Oldsmar Friends of the Arts was formed as a 501c3 nonprofit with the goal of enhancing the performing arts in Oldsmar. As a nonprofit, the organization provides support by hosting various fundraisers over the course of the year and utilizes those funds to pay for production costs such as the rental of sound and lighting and scripts for shows. On October 15th, the Friends of the Arts will present musical performance of Moana Jr. on the Elizabeth Skinner Amphitheater stage at RE Olds Park. This free presentation will be the culmination of months of practice leading up to the 2 on-stage rehearsals and a final performance. It's anticipated the performance will bring close to 600 people. In accordance with the City of Oldsmar Special Event Guide, the above organization is requesting the city waive the fees associated with the event in the amount of $860. All external costs, including utility fees of $150, will be the organizer's responsibility. A copy of the application is attached. Staff recommends approval.
I need a motion to approve. I got a motion, how about a second?
Second.
Got a motion, 2 motions in 2 seconds. All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Now, item 25.
Item 25, approve the special event application fee waiver request for the Holiday Sharing Fund Craft Beer Festival to be held on November 5th, 2022. The Holiday Sharing Fund is a nonprofit organization that raises money through charitable events to provide bicycles, helmets, and locks to economically disadvantaged children living in the Oldsmar community. The organization proposes a new craft beer festival on November 5th to take place on the grass lot on the east side of City Hall. It is anticipated to draw close to 1,200 people over the course of the day. In accordance with the special event guide, the above organization is requesting that the city waive the fees associated in the amount of $1,260. All external costs, including utility fees of $100, will be the event organizer's responsibility. A copy of the application is attached for the review. Staff recommends approval.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I know you were mentioning a brewery earlier, Mayor. I don't know if you saw in the special event permit application, the description to introduce craft beer to the community and promote the industry and help highlight the city of Oldsmar, and all the money goes to Holiday Sharing Fund.
Isn't that amazing?
Pretty cool.
Good stuff.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other discussions? Yes, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I'm curious, and I know I've got another item coming up on the charities requesting donations, but, you know, do we have a report of how many bikes the Holiday Sharing Fund is giving to Oldsmar, what the contribution is back to Oldsmar, to the citizens? Because it seems like we keep waiving these fees for these events, but everything I see on the Holiday Sharing Fund that's shared publicly on community web pages is Dunedin, Safety Harbor, Pasco County. I don't really ever see something from Oldsmar, and I'm wondering, what am I missing here?
The applicant's here.
And I see Mark's here.
Mark, come on up. State your name and Chamber of Commerce.
Mark Howe, 508 Pine Avenue South.
There you go.
Yeah, we, Christmas time, Holiday Sharing Fund buys bikes for needy kids in safety, Oldsmar and Safety Harbor.
Okay.
So we did, last year we did 80 bikes at Christmas time for kids at Oldsmar and Safety Harbor.
Okay.
And then we do, the other part of that is Kids Pedal Power that does the bikes for Habitat.
For the
Humanity
Habitat,
for Pinellas
okay.
County. So we did 180 bikes last year, over 180 bikes.
How many of those did you assemble?
A lot.
Thanks.
185.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Anything else?
Do you have any
No,
other
thank you.
questions?
That's
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, just one quick.
Yes,
real
go
quick.
ahead.
I think in addition to the benefits that are happening within the city as well as beyond our borders, it's just, this is another event to hopefully drive some interest to future activity right
Right
next
there.
door.
Yes,
So
exactly.
hope it's an event that sticks around.
Yes, exactly.
And Second Friday's starting again.
Yes, it's going to be hot.
Kick it off.
Yeah.
Mark, one quick question. How long you been doing it? 2009, 08? When did you start Holiday?
Rick Sarah, back to
I started way back when, and then Rick started,
deputies nodding.
I got a plaque, I think, from 09 from that. Thank you very much for coming in, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 26.
Approve the special event application fee waiver request for the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce's Celebrate Oldsmar event to be held November 18th through 20th, 2022. This citywide celebration, which takes place in Ari Olds Parks, originally began in 1995 as a one-day city-operated run event and eventually grew into a two-day regional music, food, and beverage festival with fireworks over the Labor Day weekend. On June 15, 2021, City Council approved the transfer of operations of Celebrate Oldsmar to the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, which has since become a three-day event. This year's event is proposed to take place November 18th through 20th, 2022 at Ari Olds Park and will include live music, vendors, and well as food and beverage. In addition, the city will provide fireworks during the event on Saturday night, November 19th. In accordance with the city's special event guide, the above organization is requesting that the city waive the fees associated with the event in the amount of $5,580. All external costs, including utility fees of $1,000, will be the event organizer's responsibility. Copy of the application is attached for your review. Staff recommends approval.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved?
How about a second? Any discussion? All I can say is I love the fireworks, and I know the community does too.
Yeah.
There are.
Mayor brought it up during
Yeah,
open forum.
yeah.
I'm so glad we moved it to November too. Remember how it always got rained out?
And it was hot.
Well, it used to be
Oh,
4th
so
of July.
Yeah, 4th of July, and then they moved it
moved
to
it.
Celebrate Oldsmar in
Last weekend.
September.
Labor Day
Yeah,
weekend.
it would have been Labor Day weekend.
I told Felicia today in the meeting that I still miss the city employees cooking hammers and hot dogs. And what did you say?
No.
I don't know if they miss that. I don't know if they miss that as much as we do.
Hard pass.
And remember, they were dollar chicken sandwiches. You remember that? I still have the T-shirt.
The food trucks
Yeah,
look
no,
really
yeah.
good.
I love, and Mark, you guys are doing a great job with it. Last year, you proved that you can take that over and doing a great job. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. City Clerk, Ann Nixon.
Item number 27, approve excused absence.
Right. Number 37. No.
Approved excused absence for Councilmember Gannon from the September 20, 2022 council meeting.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Anybody want to talk about that, discussion?
Oh, we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it
Yeah.
again after.
I'll send you pictures from my Viking River cruise in Budapest.
Oh,
that's
nice.
great. Really?
Awesome.
Wow,
really cool.
good for you.
40, y'all. Turning 40.
Wow.
We're almost to item 40 on the agenda.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Enjoy your cruise, Katie.
Thank you.
All right, item 28, discuss formalizing process for charities requesting donations from the city. Jared, did you want to?
I was actually going to ask to punt this to a future one based on time.
That's
Unless you
fine.
guys want to discuss it or you want to bring it up.
No,
I
I-
would think move it to the one after the 20th, so.
It's kind of late. Would you,
Councilmember Gannon could be here, so just move to a future date. I
That's
think
fine.
2 meetings from now is
Tom,
fine.
is that okay? All right, we're going to table item 28.
Would be a motion to postpone, and then let's just do it to a date certain. What would be the committee?
It's not going to be the next meeting, so we-
October
October
1st,
4th,
October meeting.
first meeting in October.
October 4th.
October 1?
Postponed to the
4th.
4th.
October 4th. So I'm
I'd
according
like to make a
to-
motion to table the item, postpone item 28, discussing formalizing process for charities requesting donations from the city to October 4th, 2022.
second?
Second.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I'd like to make a motion to move council comments to the next meeting. please.
All right, council comments, we're starting out with Vice Mayor Jared Buckman. You're up.
In light of time and early flight tomorrow, I'm going to keep it short. Thank you, everyone, for all the work. I know it's a big agenda. Thank you, city staff. Thank you, Mayor.
Excellent. Andrew Knapp, Councilmember Knapp.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it brief, too. I hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. The one thing I'm going to share it now, just so you have time to make up your mind and consider participating, is I'm going to sign up for an event called Tunnels to Towers in Tampa. It's in honor of kind of raising funds for first responders and military that lost their lives in the line of duty. So it's 41 flights up at Tampa Center. So it's October 4th, I believe. So right before the council.
Right before council meeting,
Come
you're
in
going
with
to
no
go 41
legs.
flights of stairs.
Yeah.
Like an armadillo, right?
That's all I have.
Just be
So,
careful.
yeah, I would encourage you to
Yeah,
think
be
about it if you're so inclined, and if not, go cheer some people on. pass some water out.
All right.
That's all I
That's
got.
it? All right,
Yep, thank you.
Councilmember Graber.
Thank you, Mayor. I will also be brief. Second Friday is back this Friday, so that is very exciting. Mark just left. I think he's getting ready for Second Friday. Citizens Academy's back. Woo-hoo! Very excited for everyone involved. The last remaining citizen will be a member of the Academy. Ann and Kathy, thank you in advance for what they're about to experience. I think all of us are graduates, but we all love the event, so thank you both. You are
Yeah.
wonderful. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Gannon, the cruise
Oh,
queen.
well, I don't know about that. Thank you, Mayor. I already mentioned the Safe Routes to School Zoom teleconference that I attended. I'm delighted with the Ford Pinellas Memorandum of Understanding. I think it's really exciting. Take the comprehensive plan survey at myoldsmar.com. It doesn't take that long. It says 18 minutes, but that's if you take a lot of time to fill in those boxes. You can do this. We need your input. I don't know if you guys had your discussion with our consultant yet, or had your consultant meeting yet. I had a wonderful time. I don't even know if he had to ask me any questions. He just said, "What are your thoughts on that?" And then, well, you guys know me.
Let it go.
I kind of took it from there, but it was really great. And I really liked the format of the survey. And he mentioned that there's a possibility that we might be considering doing a youth survey. So that's really cool. And September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and a very happy birthday in heaven. Happy 17th birthday to McKenna Elizabeth Brown that we lost from Eastlake High School. I'll miss you guys. I'll see you in the first meeting in October.
Wonderful.
I'll see you this weekend, let's face it.
I'm going to keep mine short. I've been away for 2 weeks. Family weddings. I just want to thank you for allowing me to do that. It was just better for me to stay there than to fly home and then come back. So thank you for changing our work session. And most of all, I want to thank all of you for tonight. This was a pretty intense meeting, 30 items on the agenda, and I just want to thank you for your hard work, and also to city staff for your hard work. And that's all I have. We're going to move on to item 30. Our next meeting is September 20th, 2022, and we need to approve the tentative agenda. Does anyone wish to pull or add to the agenda? They don't want to miss that this time. Nothing? All right, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'll do it today. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
How about a second?
Second.
It's not necessary, but this meeting is, the longest meeting in our history is over.
No way.